If you have already watched this introductory information, you can skip ahead no more than 10 minutes. Hello, welcome. It is predicted that President Trump will die from a heart attack on December 12th, 2024. It is also predicted that Trump's heart attack will be triggered by a directed energy weapon that will target Trump through Bluetooth technology. The components inside the pointy thing that Trump took will facilitate this. And it is believed that when Trump visited Biden at the White House, Trump's Bluetooth MAC address was obtained, which will be used to target Trump with a directed energy weapon. I am predicting that Vice President Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash in St. Louis due to a bird strike into Busch Stadium. In the area code 314, it will be a burning bush, as described in Exodus 3:14, on December 24th, 2024. She will be replaced by Michelle Obama. And then Barack Obama will replace Michelle. I am predicting that dirty bombs will explode in Manhattan, New York City, and there will be a large-scale evacuation on December 16th. I am predicting that Israel will bomb Iran on December 17th. Israel will nuke and completely destroy Damascus, Syria on December 26th, 2024. On December 17th, 2024, it is predicted that the state legislatures in the swing states that are controlled by the Democrat Party will have their electors vote for Harris instead of Trump after his death. On this same day, December 17th, it is predicted that Joe Biden will become the first world leader to use an intercontinental ballistic missile in an act of war, and he will launch a ballistic missile into Iran. This will follow the predicted dirty bombs in New York City on December 16th, and the rocket into Iran will be a wag the dog event designed to distract from the electors in the swing states voting to make Kamala Harris the president-elect. It is predicted that on December 25th, Joe Biden will suffer a stroke. After Kamala Harris's predicted plane crash on December 24th and Joe Biden's predicted stroke on December 25th, it is predicted that on December 26th, Joe Biden will appoint Michelle Obama as the vice president, and then Biden will step down. Michelle Obama will appoint Barack Obama as the 51st vice president. On January 12th, 2025, Michelle Obama will step down, and Barack Obama will become the 48th president. His public inauguration ceremony will be on January 20th, 2025. I am predicting that former President Jimmy Carter will die on January 28th. It is predicted that the San Francisco 49ers will win the Super Bowl in 2025. The San Francisco 49ers will win the Super Bowl in the 6th plus 6th plus 6th state to join the Union on February 9th, 2025, and will become the third team to win 6 Super Bowls, which hints at 3 sixes. San Francisco points to Pope Francis, the first of 2 antichrists in Bible prophecy. It is predicted that on April 20th, 2025, there will be an outbreak of monkeypox or Marburg disease or both. April 20th will be a symbolic beginning to a new pandemic. June 8th, 2025, the true Feast of Pentecost in the calendar that watches for new moons, will be the day of the resurrection rapture event. It is predicted that on June 9th, the day after the rapture, the key will open the bottomless pit and fallen angels will cross over into the earthly realm. June 9th, will be a symbolic beginning to the fifth trumpet judgment that is described in Revelation chapter 9, when the demonic realm collides with the earthly realm. June 9th will be a symbolic beginning to demons pretending to be aliens, and it is possible that June 9th will be the day Pope Francis will announce that aliens have arrived and have made him the ambassador for the world. This will immediately give Pope Francis, the Antichrist, supreme power over governments of the world. At some point, there will be a massive Mary apparition that will deceive the masses, because all Mary apparitions in history have been demons pretending to be Mary. June 9th will be a symbolic beginning to a zombie pandemic and the masses becoming demonically possessed that will be facilitated through the thing, which is the mark of the Antichrist and 5G frequencies. June 9th will be a symbolic beginning to the coming genocide politicide in America. I am predicting that singer-songwriter Paul Simon will die on August 1st, 2025. It is predicted that on August 6th, 2025, the historic barge that has been stuck on the rocks of the Niagara River for over 100 years will finally break free and crash over Niagara Falls. The reason for this is that Niagara Falls is Noah's flood symbolism, and the barge was involved in the most dramatic rescue in the history of Niagara Falls, symbolic of Noah's Ark. Niagara in the native language means straight, narrow way, and Niagara's Horseshoe Falls is perfectly aimed at the CN Tower in downtown Toronto, because Toronto and its tower are symbolic of the Tower of Babel. In a game of horseshoes, the object is to aim the horseshoe and throw it at the metal stick, which is why the Horseshoe Falls is perfectly aimed at the metal stick that is the CN Tower. God is communicating that as testament for those who will live in the 1,000 years of Christ's reign on earth, the geography of North America will, as a result of a massive earthquake, be divided by a body of water from the Great Lakes to the Mississippi Delta. This destruction will be judgment on America and Canada for attempting to divide God's land, Israel. When this happens, the water in the Great Lakes will spill out over southern Ontario and Toronto. I am predicting that a solar flare will erupt on the surface of the sun and send a coronal mass ejection that will hit Earth on August 13th, 2025, which will knock out America's power grid and will lead to food shortages. The hit of the coronal mass ejection, predicted for August 13th, that will knock out the power grid will also knock many planes out of the sky. I am predicting that on August 23rd, 2025, there will be a catastrophic asteroid hit of Earth, which will trigger the eruption of Yellowstone volcano and will cause the volcano in the Canary Islands to collapse into the Atlantic Ocean and send a mega tsunami towards the east coast. The asteroid will also trigger a mega landslide on Hawaii Island that will trigger a mega tsunami that will hit the west coast. It will also trigger the collapse of the Hoover Dam, which will cause a water panic in California, and many other devastating earthquakes. The day of the Lord, the second coming of Lord Jesus Christ, Judgment Day, will be on the Day of Atonement, October 1st, 2025. The date that this video is posted proves that these predictions are being made ahead of time, as do these time-stamped emails and forensic notes PDF documents. If you are skeptical for some reason, please email me and I will forward these to you. Believe me, I know far better than you how the prediction made in this video was derived, And more importantly, I know far better than you why the righteous Christian God of the Bible has given me a voice through this prediction. If you are a quote-unquote Christian or Muslim, this prediction was not learned through a demon. Be warned that blaspheming the Holy Spirit is the unforgivable sin. If you are a New Ager or New Spirituality person, this prediction was not learned through somehow tapping into the supposed universal collective consciousness. If you are a conspiracy theorist, this prediction was not learned through figuring out a supposed code that the Illuminati and Satanists are using. This prediction was learned through the Bible and through watching carefully the Lord's prophetic signs, which Jesus commanded all Christians to do. Besides proving that Jesus Christ is the Lord, the reason why God has given me a voice through this prediction is to prove that the controversial things that I am saying in the videos on this channel are the truth. Therefore, a wise person will want to watch all of the videos on this channel. What I will also do is create a video or two that summarizes some of the controversial things that the Lord will prove to be true when the prediction being made in this video comes to pass. I will leave links to these must-watch videos in the description box below this video. Again, the purpose of this prediction, that is from God, is to prove these things that I will talk about. And therefore, it would be foolish to not watch the videos that I will leave links for in the description box below this video. Make a note right now of these alternative platforms that you can find me on in case you can't find me later. Welcome. This video is amazing. It's about this theme that God is communicating regarding the island of Dr. Moreau, but it is predicted that President Trump will die on December 12th, 2024, and when the prediction comes to pass, it will prove everything that I am saying or am about to say in this video. And that is the purpose of this prediction that is from God. And believe me, I know far better than you the reason for this prediction. It is to prove the things that I am saying or about to say. And I'm about to say some pretty astounding things. All right, welcome. In this video, I will be talking about this theme. What is the word to describe this theme that God is using? The island of Dr. Moreau. Houston, we have a problem. It's clear that God is pointing to what is coming with the 3 film adaptations of H.G. Wells, The Island of Dr. Moreau. The story of The Island of Dr. Moreau is that human-animal hybrids are bred in experimental laboratories. The implication is that the mark, the thing, the pointy thing, which is an experiment, so supposedly, will somehow transform people into some sort of hybrids. They will no longer be fully human. I had looked a bit into the prophetic relevance of the island of Dr. Moreau back when it was learned that God is using John Frankenheimer's filmography. Hopefully you are familiar with this movie, or one of them, because there's 3, as I just mentioned, and what the plot of this movie. It's about, like I just said, Dr. Moreau is the mad scientist on a remote South Pacific island or some remote island out of contact with civilization. And he is doing these abominable experiments and creating these hybridizations between animals and humans. And okay. Part of this sign includes the production of the 3rd adaptation of the story that was made in 1996. God uses records and extremes for signs. This link will help to appreciate how this movie is easily considered to be the most cursed movie ever made. So God uses extremes or records for his signs. This is an interesting one. This is the most cursed movie ever made. In other words, the production of this movie was cursed. And it was so full of these strange coincidences and things that relate to the making of the movie, that there is a well-known documentary made about the making of this movie. I wish I could play that documentary for you. I don't think it's too long. If I remember, I'll leave a link in the description box below this video to the documentary about the making of the movie. It's fascinating. And the reason really why it is fascinating is because it's from God. That's the point. The making of the movie is in itself the prophetic sign. All right? Okay, and so what's also interesting too is that the most cursed movie ever made is about a movie that is an abomination. The plot of the movie is an abomination. It is a curse. And God designed it that this became the most cursed movie ever made in order to communicate the curse of the mark of the Antichrist, which corrupts a person's chromosomes and alters them and makes them no longer fully human. And what is coming is a mass demonic possession. That in itself is a hybridization between demons and humans. Those who have taken the mark of the Antichrist are about to be transformed into monsters. And I can only guess that there'll be some, it won't just be, it might, or maybe I should put it this way, it likely won't only be the person's physical body and demonic spirit inside it. There very well could be physical, material transformations of the person's body into some sort of monstrous hybridization. This is what God is communicating anyway, because he has, for example, also communicated that an American werewolf in London and the iconic scene is important, and zombies, there's so many zombie signs. Well, now we have this island of Dr. Moreau included into this. And that's not exactly demonic possession. That's a transformation of the body into something monstrous. And it could be symbolism. It could just be, it's more symbolism related to the zombie symbolism. In other words, a mass demonic possession. In other words, a demonic spirit or spirits inside the person. But I think it's possible that, like I'm saying, there'll be a physical transformation as well. We also, by the way, on that note, now also have the Substance movie, The Substance. From what I understand, the character that takes the substance, which is definitely symbolism for taking the mark of the Antichrist, has a bodily transformation that becomes monstrous by the end of the movie. I haven't watched the movie. It just came out, and I don't watch movies in general anymore. But it might be worth watching that movie because it is a movie from God. And although I've read the plot, etc., anyway, that's what I understand takes place in the movie, The Substance. And so that's another example of bodily transformation, a physical one. So something is being, yeah, I think you get what I'm trying to say at this point. So part of this sign, okay, I just read this part. Okay, so one thing to note about the numerous examples of the movie production being cursed, so there's many examples of how the movie production was cursed, is that, and one example is that the original director's mother's home was hit 3 times by lightning during the production. Okay, so the old adage is, you know, lightning striking twice. Well, it struck 3 times the director's mother's home during the production. From what I recall, that wasn't in 1 minute. That wasn't, you know, lightning bolt after lightning bolt, but I don't remember for sure. Anyway, the director is the man who conceived of the production of this movie. Okay, so he's also the person that conceived the production of the movie. Okay, he's not just the director. He's anyway, he's the creator of the movie, if you will. So this is relevant because the 3 lightning strikes confirm the exact 333 months from its release, okay, to the date God is pointing to as the beginning of the island of Dr. Moreau in real life, May 23rd, 2024. Now, this was a step. This email I'm reading, I believe, was written in December. Okay, so it was written in December of 2023, and it was recognized back then, prior to then even, that this date here, May 23rd, 2024, would be a symbolic beginning to this mass demonic possession, the demonic realm colliding with the earthly realm. Revelation 9/11 day, as I say. And there are many other things to say about what title could be given to this day, this symbolic beginning of things, including also Aliens Day, when demons pretending to be aliens will be in the news. And the analysis was correct because this date, the sign received on this date confirmed the analysis. In other words, the sign, the prophetic sign that occurred on this date was completely relevant. And that was the death of Morgan Spurlock. By the way, make sure you watch all of this video. It's going to get progressively more and more amazing. Don't skip ahead though, because I'm right now in the beginning. I'm building a foundation for some truly profound things that are coming. And so, yeah, stay tuned. But so Morgan Spurlock was the director, the creator of the documentary that was super famous, Super Size Me. He was the guy that ate McDonald's for every meal for, I forget for how long. Maybe it was like 30 days or something. But it was every single meal and only McDonald's. And so the movie's called Super Size Me. And I can't explain it in this video, but God is using this as part of another theme that's related to Alice in Wonderland. And the plot of Alice in Wonderland is that she follows the rabbit into the hole, and then she's confronted with these doors that she can't get through because she's too big. Okay, so from what I recall, she drinks a potion and eats a cake to become smaller and bigger. So she's supersized. Okay, and then she's able to go through the door, which is a portal to another world. This is symbolism for the portal, the door, to the demonic realm. That is another world that's in parallel with our world, but we don't see. And these two worlds are going to come together, which is what's described in Revelation chapter 9, for example. There's going to be a collision between these two worlds, and the demons are going to come through the portal. So that's why God is using this theme of Alice in Wonderland, which the director of Super Size Me is a part of in God's big picture of signs. And the full intended meaning of any of the prophetic signs, which isn't appreciated, as far as I'm aware, on any other channel, is that the full intended cannot be properly understood. The full meaning of the signs cannot be understood without their context and connections to the other prophetic signs, which is also why the vast majority of the prophetic signs are missed by the rest of the people that are said to be watchers of prophetic signs. So anyway, this is a theme that's connecting to other signs that confirm all of that the death of Morgan Spurlock connects to all of that, but I can't explain that in this video. So that's what happened on this May 23rd date, which was this date that was expected long in advance to be part of this particular theme of the demonic realm colliding with the earthly realm. And so the sign we received completely confirms all of the analysis. All right. Now also, the date 523 hints at 523, which is the 9 times 11th prime number, which hints at Revelation 9:11, which is the verse that symbolizes all of this demons coming through the portal into the earthly realm. Also, this 333 months, this is actually 27 years and 9 months. That's what 333 months is. And that's a hint at the verse in the Bible that symbolizes the period of the end and the Antichrist. Daniel 9:27. 27 years and 9 months. Okay, now bear with me. As I said, we're going to get to the most recent information regarding all of this theme of the island of Dr. Moreau. But what I'm doing is, in the first part here, giving the background, which is necessary. And so this background information was written essentially a year ago. Okay, so I was about to say a lot has happened since then, but that would, even saying that's an understatement is an understatement. I mean, literally every day the knowledge and understanding multiplies. So anyway, all right. Now, the other thing, too, is that this May 23rd date was the date of Jupiter-Venus conjunction. Well, anyway, which are symbolic of the rapture. Well, this is relevant, actually, because the rapture is the escape from what's coming, this severe persecution from the Antichrist, but also the demonic realm colliding with the earthly realm. God's faithful won't be here for that. They'll be raptured the day before. On June 8th, 2025, the true Pentecost, the following day, June 9th, is now known to be the symbolic beginning. And I'm not saying everyone is going to become demonically possessed that day. What God is communicating is that it is a symbolic beginning. So I don't know what's going to happen. My guess is that aliens will be in the news. And perhaps Pope Francis will declare that the aliens have made him the ambassador for the world. My guess also, based on the information from God's signs, is that the aliens will be here to claim that they are here to help us with our nukes, and therefore, at that time, whether it be on June 8th or June 9th, the world will be on the precipice of a nuclear holocaust, which the aliens will save the day. That's what I think is happening, or going to happen. Okay. Well, anyway, let's see. So the movie, The Island of Dr. Moreau, the third one, the one that was made or released in 1996, was released exactly 6 + 6 + 6 years, which is also 6 times 6 times 6 months after the birth of Kobe Bryant. And God has used Kobe Bryant in signs to hint at the CVD, because Kobe in Hebrew sounds like, begins with a C, ends with a O-V-I-D, right? Okay, but also Kobe died in a helicopter crash, and God is using helicopters for their rotor blades as symbolism for an X, which is symbolic of the mark. The Tav letter is the symbol or the mark that would have been used in the book of Ezekiel, the inverse of the mark of the Antichrist. The reason why it's an X that symbolizes the mark is because X's also symbolize chromosomes, which are altered after someone has taken the mark of the Antichrist. Okay? All right. Now, the second take on the island of Dr. Moreau was released on July 13th, 1977, the same day of the extremely prophetic New York City blackout, in which 9 million people were without power for over 24 hours, chaos in the streets, the New York City blackout. And that was exactly 42 years before the Manhattan blackout on July 13th, 2019. 42 years is because 42 months in Bible prophecy is symbolic of the period of the Antichrist. And we are near the end of it. The 42 months of this prophecy is over. The prediction being made in this video will prove this, which is, by the way, that President Trump will die on December 12th, 2024. Forgot to mention that at the beginning. So I'm going to pause here and put that at the beginning. And anyway, that's what we're getting at here. The purpose of this prediction, the purpose of this video is to communicate this information, which will be proven to be true when the prediction comes to pass. And so believe me, I know far better than you the reason and purpose for this prediction that is from God, that President Trump will die on December 12th. It is to prove the things that I am saying. Case closed. Now, so the 42 years is symbolic of the Antichrist. It was actually exactly 110 minutes shy of an exact 42 years between the blackout to blackout. And on 9/11 in Manhattan, which is where the Manhattan blackout was, 110 stories of the Twin Towers collapsed. Okay, so on the same day as the Manhattan blackout, Hurricane Barry, as in Barack, because Barack changed his name from Barry to Barack. Who does that, by the way? Who changes their name from a simple classic American name to anyway? So Hurricane Barry hit the 18th state, 6 + 6 + 6. And it was known for the power outages that it caused. So the hurricane that was known for the power outages it caused occurred on the same day as the Manhattan blackout power outage. Also during the Manhattan blackout, a 4.0 magnitude earthquake hit Manhattan, Montana, exactly 9 months and 11 days after the swarm of earthquakes began there. This 4.0 served to confirm the 4 times 444 days from the Manhattan blackout and Hurricane Barry on July 13th, 2019, to the death of Morgan Spurlock on 5/23 in 2024, and again 5/23 hints at the 9 times 11th prime number, 523. Therefore, the second The Island of Dr. Moreau movie connects profoundly to the date of the beginning of the real life, The Island of Dr. Moreau. Okay, now that was just, again, this was written before May 23rd and a long time before. In fact, what I mean by that too is that it was recognized a long time before May 23rd that it would only be a step and not the day of the symbolic beginning of the demonic realm colliding with the earthly realm, symbolized by Revelation 9:11. But anyway, that's why we have the 9/11s connecting to all of this, as I just explained. Okay, so May 23rd, 2024, the day of the Jupiter-Venus conjunction that will symbolize the rapture, will be 666% of a year after the Revelation chapter 12 rapture sign was fulfilled in the night sky on September 23rd, 2017. This connection of 666% is also, and so that's astounding, by the way, because again, Morgan Spurlock, his death on this day is 666% of a year after the Revelation 12 rapture sign. And that is more confirmation that Morgan Spurlock, Super Size Me, is a play by God on Alice in Wonderland and portals to another world and demonic possession and the demonic realm colliding with the earthly realm the day after the rapture. Now, this 666% of a year is also 40 plus 40 months, and that hints at the 44th president, the Antichrist. And it's also, and also, by the way, it's 6 years and 8 months. And that hints at 68, the number that's equivalent to the name Barack Obama in simple English gematria, A equals 1, B equals 2, C equals 3. And also, Barack Obama, in a secondary fulfillment of the prophecy of the 5th through 8th kings, is the 6th and 8th king that identifies the Antichrist, Barack Obama. All right, and okay, and so the Revelation 12 sign also was exactly 1,017 months after the release of the first The Island of Dr. Moreau movie, titled The Island of Lost Souls, on December 23rd, 1932. 32 is the equivalent of the name Obama in simple English gematria. And it's also 4 times 8. Obama will become the 48th president. He will also be the only other president other than the 32nd president to serve more than 2 terms. Okay, and, okay. So God uses the number 117 as symbolism for the mark of the Antichrist because it means let it divide. The middle chapter, the dividing chapter of the Bible, is Psalms 117. The phrase, let it divide, in the very beginning of the first chapter of the Bible, Genesis 1, is in Hebrew equivalent to 117 in Hebrew gematria. And, well, the Roman Empire, because Rome is where the seat of the Antichrist is, the first of the 2 Antichrists. Barack Obama is the second of the 2. Pope Francis is the first one. Anyway, the Roman Empire reached its maximum expansion in the year 117 AD and then contracted after that. And that's division, the division between the expansion phase and the contraction phase. Okay, so it means division, and the mark of the Antichrist is being used to divide people. The sheep from the goats, the wheat from the chaff, the true Christians from the non-quote-unquote Christian, and other non-believers, etc. Okay, yeah, I know I caught some of you there because many of you probably have this mistaken idea that a quote-unquote Christian is not going to take the mark of the Antichrist. Well, no, the vast majority of quote-unquote Christians have already taken the mark of the Antichrist. Fortunately, nowhere in the Bible does it say one cannot repent after having taken the mark of the Antichrist. But the thing is, and you know what I'm talking about, the pointy thing, it is the mark of the Antichrist in its current form. It does not need an additional something to go with it, such as an additional technology or false form of religious worship, or a supposed, and for those that are wise, it did include false religious worship, and it doesn't require a supposed new age of dispensation after supposedly all quote-unquote Christians will be raptured. In fact, one of the main reasons why the vast majority of quote-unquote Christians have already taken the mark of the Antichrist is, in fact, it is judgment for this particular doctrine, which is rooted part of the Nicolaitan doctrine that Jesus said he hates, and is coming to make war with the sword of his mouth on those that teach and have the works that are a product of this doctrine. Okay, so anyway, when the prediction comes to pass, it will prove what I am saying, and that is the purpose of this prediction. Make no mistake, I know more than you the reason for this prediction and why God has given me a voice through this prediction, and it is to prove what I have just said. And the commonly held objections that people have based on their understanding of Bible prophecy are answered in the must-watch snake bite video. But make no mistake, when the prediction comes to pass, it means that these commonly held objections to why this can't be the mark of the Antichrist are not correct. This first, the island of Dr. Moreau, connects with the rapture sign, which connects to the conjunction symbolic of the rapture, which is again the day that Morgan Spurlock died. Okay, so this is how important the island of Dr. Moreau is in his signs. Okay, it's connecting way back in 1932 to the rapture sign, and then to the death of Morgan Spurlock. Lots more is coming. Stay tuned. I'm just, like I said, building a foundation here. But this is amazing. This is giving us the clue as to how important the island of Dr. Moreau is here. And the second, the island of Dr. Moreau, connects to Manhattan Island, as I explained. Okay, here's just some thought process. Again, this is back in December of 2023. I'll just share some thinking here. We have something happening in the culture. For example, a series on Netflix called Sexy Beasts, where people are pretending to be animals. They're dressed up in animal costumes. There's this twisted, perverted bestiality theme going on. It's all demonic. And we also have in the culture people having sex with demons and or aliens. And for example, the popular Katy Perry song, E.T., okay? The lyrics are, it's not a dispute, right? It's like literally, that's why the song's called E.T. She's having sex with an extraterrestrial. But if you listen carefully, it's clear she's having sex with a spiritual being. And so there's a mix going on here. And this is all getting to Genesis chapter 6, when fallen angels mixed with man, and God needed to, because of the mixing of the fallen race and man, God needing to wipe the corrupted chromosomes out. Well, that's exactly what's happening now. The chromosomes have been corrupted through the mark of the Antichrist pointy thing, and there's coming a mixing of man and the demonic realm, and I believe somehow, some way, there will be people having sex with demons, and there's also coming the mass extermination of these people and a cleansing, just like the flood was a cleansing. I also mentioned this. I talk about it in another video, which you need to watch, the American Werewolf in London video. Trust me, this isn't enough. You need to watch that video. It's an absolute must watch. In fact, on that note, the wise person will recognize that when the prediction comes to pass, that every minute of every video on this channel should be watched. But anyway, the movie An American Werewolf in London was released exactly 36 years before the Great American Eclipse that crossed America in 2017. It's exactly 36 years to the date, August 21st in each of those years, 1981 and 2017. 36 because it hints at 3 sixes, 666, the number of the Antichrist, and the mark of the Antichrist, which changes a person's chromosomes, which are symbolized by an X, and that's why the eclipse 7 years after the Great American Eclipse, the one in 2024, crossed the path of totality where the first one went over the nation exactly where the first one peaked, and then engendered an X over the nation. X's are two straight lines that cross each other in their midpoints. The midpoint date of the two dates of the eclipses was December 14th, 2020, the date that someone took the first mark of the Antichrist outside of a trial in America. It was the symbolic date for the mark of the Antichrist. The mark of the Antichrist changes a person's chromosomes, which are symbolized by an X. Anyway, the iconic scene of American Werewolf, for which a new category at the Academy Awards was created, Best Makeup, special effects, etc. It's called Best Makeup. This was a new category because of this amazing scene that made this movie a huge movie, An American Werewolf in London. And the movie is, of course, and the scene is about a man changing into a monster. And God is, as I just explained, connected that to the X over America and the mark of the Antichrist, as I just explained. Also, the most cursed movie ever made was directed by John Frankenheimer. John Frankenheimer was known to be the last of the dictatorial style of directors. That's Antichrist symbolism. And furthermore, his production in the movie was cursed. We're talking about the Antichrist curse. Frankenheimer hints at Frankenstein. And amazingly, the movie is about Frankensteins. It's this hybridization between animals and humans. And it's directed by Frankenheimer? Are you kidding me? Now, also, Frankenheimer was brought in to direct the movie because of the movie being cursed, which caused the original director, who I mentioned earlier was essentially the brainchild for the movie, causing him to quit. All right, that's a part of the story about how the movie was the most cursed movie ever made. So there's a aspect of Frankenheimer being brought into the movie, as in like the Antichrist coming in to take his place. Frankenheimer being known for being the last of the dictatorial style of directors. Okay, so this is all hinting at Genesis 6, like I just said. So we have zombies and demonically possessed people, but physical changes like werewolves and Island of Dr. Moreau type of things? Question mark? Well, it seems so. Just some more thoughts here to build this foundation we are talking about here with this Dr. Moreau, Island of Dr. Moreau theme. Okay, so a friend of mine wrote this: the decision to take the thing can be thought of as like being courted by the beast, Satan. The literal notion of having sex with a demon is to the spiritual notion of accepting or, quote, becoming one with, unquote, a false, evil idea. So, I guess you could say having sex with a demon is symbolic of becoming one with evil and Satan. Well, obviously, right? But, that's the metaphor of the Bible when it uses the metaphor of adultery and a union between a man and a woman and this kind of metaphoric language. It's referring to spiritual decisions, in fact. So, something just interesting. The song E.T., Katy Perry, when she sings about having sex with a demonic alien, was released on the same day as the viral song was released of Rebecca Black, her song Friday. I hope you know what I'm talking about. I don't really feel like explaining much more. She was this teenager that came out with the song Friday, and it was made fun of like big time everywhere on late night talk shows, etc. It was viral, and because it was so over the top, ridiculous, and cheesy. Rebecca Black and her song Friday hints at Black Friday, and her song was released on a Friday, on the same Friday that Katy Perry released her E.T. song, Having Sex with Demons. In other words, this is a prophetic sign. Katy Perry's song about having sex with demonic aliens. Okay, I got this wrong here, but 666 weeks exactly after Katy Perry's song and Black Friday, or rather Rebecca Black's Friday song, was November 17th, 2023, the day of the big news regarding Sam Harris Altman. Okay, he's the guy behind the AI company, OpenAI, and that was the day he stepped down. It was the big news, but it happened on this day, and so now we're connecting AI to sex with demons. In other words, demonic possession as well. And that's clear because it's exactly 666 weeks. Furthermore, we have some other second witness confirmations here. His name is Harris, and God is using this theme because of the death of Kamala Harris in a plane crash that's predicted for December 24th. And she, Kamala Harris, attended in a prophetic sign the AI Summit in the UK on the same day that the Beatles, a UK band, released their new song that used AI in its production, that made it possible. The story about the new song is how AI made it possible. And they're from the UK, and the Beatles were about the British invasion. We are talking about an invasion of demons pretending to be aliens, and this use of AI somehow in what is going to happen. Okay, here I confirm it with a Wikipedia link. Perry's next song released was last Friday night. Okay, so she released her E.T. song on the day that Rebecca Black released her song Friday, which hinted at Black Friday. And then Perry's next song was last Friday night, which was a hit as well. And that's just more confirmation that this is a prophetic sign from God. Apparently, Katy Perry has another song, Not the End of the World, and the music video involves aliens. And she presses a button that causes the Earth's internet to go out. Okay, that's interesting. Oh, okay. Altman. Okay, so again, Katy Perry's alien demonic sex with aliens song connects with 666 weeks to the news about Altman. But Altman also hints at altered, as in altered man, or altered chromosomes from the mark of the Antichrist. And those who have altered chromosomes are marked by Satan, and those will be the ones that will be demonically possessed and somehow be affected by AI. Anyway, the date of Altman here, 11:17, hints at Zechariah 11:17, the passage regarding the Antichrist. But also 1117 is the word Bama in the Hebrew concordance. And on. Okay. All right, this is a little random, but not really. I mean, it's all connected. But the eclipse is engendered an X, like I mentioned, and the area they crossed each other is the area in America nicknamed Little Egypt, which is where Memphis, Tennessee is, which is where the king of rock and roll lived in his mansion, which is symbolic of a king in a king's palace. And this is a hint at the king of Egypt, who in the Bible is symbolic of Satan and the Antichrist, and Egypt being symbolic of the Antichrist system. And so the king of rock, Elvis, has a song named Little Egypt. Okay, he has a song named Little Egypt. And the number 9 is the most important number in God's signs. As from the Bible, it symbolizes God's judgment. And the song is on his 9th soundtrack album to, I guess, the movie Rostabout. Interesting. Well, anyway, the soundtrack album, the 9th one, which symbolizes judgment, was released on the day that Kamala Harris was born. And Kamala Harris is predicted to crash in St. Louis because it will point to Little Egypt, where the eclipse crossed each other. The reason why Elvis is extremely relevant here too is because Elvis changed the thing industry. If it weren't for Elvis taking the pointy thing publicly before he went on the Ed Sullivan Show in 1958. I could be wrong. late 50s anyway, that changed history. It changed the perception of pointy things for the baby boomer generation, who then deemed it acceptable and cool to take a pointy thing. Okay? So anyway, that's why one reason why God uses Elvis in his signs. It's to actually point back to him taking the pointy thing at the Ed Sullivan show. Now, oh my, wow. Oh, wow. Okay. Oh, wow. So I just discovered something huge. Elvis took the pointy thing on the Ed Sullivan show on October 28th, 1956. Construction was completed on the Gateway Arch. Kamala Harris is predicted to crash next to the Gateway Arch in St. Louis, because in the Bible, some judgment on a people begins at the gate. The number 9 symbolizes judgment. Kamala Harris will crash at the Gateway Arch, and the Gateway Arch was completed exactly 9 years after Elvis took the pointy thing. As I said, the Gateway Arch points to Little Egypt, where Elvis is from. The king of rock lived at the king's palace because it's symbolism for the king of Egypt, who is symbolism for the Antichrist. And so it's 9 years between the arch, the symbolic date of the arch, the Gateway Arch, and Elvis taking the pointy thing. And Elvis has a song named Little Egypt from his 9th soundtrack album, which was released on the day that Kamala Harris was born. And not only that, the release of this album and the date that Kamala Harris was born was 1 year, 8 months, and 8 days exactly after construction began on the Gateway Arch. And 1 year, 8 months, and 8 days hints at 188, because God uses this number frequently to point to H188 in Strong's Hebrew Concordance, which is the word that means woe, exclamation mark, used in the context of extreme judgment from God in the Bible. This is so huge. Okay. I'm just going to repeat it because it's 9 years between the completion of the arch and Elvis taking the pointy thing. The arch is because of Little Egypt. That's also the symbolism in Elvis, because of the Bible and Egypt and the king of Egypt. And the Antichrist, who will enforce the mark of the Antichrist, which is the pointy thing. So Elvis took the pointy thing exactly 9 years before the completion of the arch. His 9th soundtrack album, Roustabout, has a song, Little Egypt. And it was released on Kamala Harris's birthday, and she is predicted to crash at the Gateway Arch. But the date that she was born and the date of the release of the song Little Egypt on the album, the 9th one, was 1 year, 8 months, and 8 days after the construction began on the arch. And that hints at judgment, as does the arch, because the gateway to the west, the Gateway Arch, is symbolic of how in the Bible, judgment begins at the gate. And the number 9 symbolizes God's judgment. It's just amazing. It's just amazing. Now, I'm just reading this too on the page. Well, okay, so the arch, the Gateway Arch is 630 feet tall. That hints at 3 6s, 666, the number of the Antichrist. The arch cost $13 million. The number 13 in the Bible symbolizes the Antichrist. Nimrod, a type for the Antichrist, was the 13th generation from Adam. Haman, another type for the Antichrist, persecuted the Jews on the 13th days of the month. And the 2 Antichrists are described in the book of Revelation in chapter 13. Also, the 54th Massachusetts Regiment, the first black regiment in the Civil War, is known for having been unfairly paid as official policy from Washington, D.C. compared to the other white northern soldiers. They were not paid the equivalent $13 a month. The arch cost $13 million. The reason why this is all relevant is because, again, the number 13 symbolizes the Antichrist. And furthermore, the mark of the Antichrist is described in the 13th chapter of the book of Revelation. But also, the oppressive minority law regarding the 54th Massachusetts Regiment God is using it as symbolism that's pointing to or hinting at communicating the coming oppressive minority law, or experienced already actually, regarding those who don't take the mark of the Antichrist, and how it will be enforced through what in Bible prophecy says buying and selling of rationed food to only those who take the mark of the Antichrist. That's why $13 is associated with oppressive minority law in this theme of slavery and freedom, the Civil War and the First Black Regiment, because the theme of the Bible and the theme of life is this battle between slavery and freedom, and those that are on the blue team making people take the mark of the Antichrist are on the side of slavery and totalitarianism, and it will all be enforced through digital currency, which is why currency and payment is the story of the 54th Massachusetts Regiment, and that's why the Gateway Arch cost $13 million. Short story long. So, that's amazing, but also God pairs 9 and 13 together, and we just saw how the 9s are related to this story here regarding the Gateway Arch. It was finished 9 years after Elvis took the pointy thing. 9 times 13, God pairs these numbers because 9 times 13 is 153. 117, and that's the number that symbolizes the mark of the Antichrist, besides the number 13. And 666, because this number 117 is the number in the Bible that symbolizes division. The middle chapter of the Bible, the dividing chapter, is Psalms 117. In the first chapter of the Bible, the phrase "let it divide" is in Hebrew equivalent to 117 in Hebrew gematria, and also the division between the expansion phase and the contraction phase of the Roman Empire was 117 AD. It reached its maximum expansion in that year, and that's because Rome is the seat of the Antichrist, the first of the two Antichrists, Pope Francis. And so anyway, that's why the number 117, which is 9 times 13, judgment and the Antichrist, 913. Anyway, that's another reason why the arch cost $13 million when it was completed, exactly 9 years after Elvis took the pointy thing, because 9 times 13 hints at the pointy thing, as I just explained. It's just amazing beyond words. What can I tell you? This is another video in itself, really. So I mentioned at the beginning that this video would become more amazing as it goes, and that's the case. Maybe you agree. I think so. So let's get to the next level here. The ancient Kush Empire inhabited a region that was named Island of Moreau. Okay, so we have somehow in 20th century culture this coincidence of the island of Dr. Moreau, right? There's actually an island of Moreau in ancient history with the Kush Empire. And I'm positive whoever came up with the island of Dr. Moreau did not know this. But, I could be wrong. But anyway, Kush is an empire that's mentioned in the Bible a number of times. It's biblical and from biblical times. So this ancient Kush Empire inhabited a region named Island of Moreau. I don't know how it got that name. It's a fact, though. You can look it up on Wikipedia. I provide the link right here, for example. And that's amazing because the meaning of the word Moreau, spelled like this, as in Island of Moreau, M-E-R-O-E, not like Dr. Moreau, M-O-R-E-A-U. Okay? The meaning of the word Moreau means dark-skinned. I think what it comes from. What language would that come from? Anyway, you can look it up if you are skeptical. I don't blame you. You can take my word for it. It means dark-skinned, which makes sense that this ancient empire would would be named, would be called the Island of Moreau, island of the, or rather region as in island of the dark-skinned people. This would be a reference from people living north of them who aren't as dark-skinned. Okay, which is where we would get the name from, because that would be where our culture would get this name, from the people that lived north of where Kush was, which, by the way, was in Sudan, okay, south of Egypt. Okay, so God is using the beasts in the Frankenheimer, as in Frankenstein, Island of Dr. Moreau movie, the most cursed movie production in history, to point to the man born in Kenya, south of Egypt, as the beast. Okay? So this is, in other words, a big reason symbolically for why Barack Obama was born south of Egypt. It's for this purpose of identifying him in all of this and Bible prophecy, which includes the Kush Empire. We have this connection. God intended this connection to be revealed through what I'm speaking of in this video, the island of Dr. Moreau and these connections in his big picture of signs. And that was the most cursed movie ever made by the last dictatorial style of director, Frankenheimer, which hints at Frankenstein, and the movie is about a Frankenstein type of thing, hybridization between animals and humans. Okay, we're talking about the curse of the Antichrist, the most cursed movie ever made. Well, this all points to the island of Moreau, spelled this way, which was the name for the area that the Kush Empire was in. And of course, Barack Obama is the first black president. He's the dark-skinned president. Okay, you see what I'm saying here? Now, incidentally, a big part of the story of the production of the movie was how Frankenheimer was brought in to replace the director and creator and writer of the original script, Stanley, as in Stanley Ann Dunham, the name of Barack Obama's mother, whose name, incidentally, is equal to 1,116 in English gematria, which is the word, the H 1,116 in the Hebrew concordance is the word Bama. Okay. Well, anyway, Stanley was the name of the original script writer and creator and the original director, which Frankenheimer replaced. You could even look at this as like Barack Obama replacing the president-elect, Kamala Harris, because she will be elected president-elect on December 17th after it is predicted that President Trump will die on December 12th. And so that's another hint at the coming replacement of the Antichrist, right? Through the replacement. That's why Frankenheimer replaced the original director. And that's why the original director's name is Stanley, because it's also hinting at Obama. Well, Frankenheimer was said to be the last of the old school directors who employed a dictatorial method on the set, which was part of the problems and the fighting in the production. Also, Marlon Brando and Val Kilmer have and had, at the time of the production, huge egos. Okay? So, that's also symbolic of Satan, who fell due to his pride. Okay, so the number 128, when this email was composed back in February, was the first time it was realized the significance of the number 128, and it's huge. I'll get to it, but for example, Michelle Obama was born exactly 128 weeks after the birth of Barack Obama, because of what I'm about to explain. Philip, in the Bible, was told to go south to the road that goes to Gaza. There he spoke with the Ethiopian before baptizing him and then being raptured. G128 in Strong's Greek Concordance is the word the Ethiopian. Israel's IDF went south and began their war in Gaza, just like Philip was told to go south to the road and to Gaza. Okay, the IDF went south by being told to, incidentally, by the leadership in Israel, and began their war in Gaza on the date October 28th, which clearly hints at G128, the Ethiopian, whom Philip met after he was told to go south to the road that goes to Gaza, just like how the IDF went south on the road that goes to Gaza on this date that hints at, okay, you get it. The movie Leave the World Behind, which is a reference to the rapture prophetically, was executive produced by the Obamas. And Obama was born in Kenya, south of Egypt. He's East African. He is, in other words, the Ethiopian in God's signs here. He's the dark-skinned one. Moreau, island of Moreau, the area where the dark-skinned Kush Empire was. And this movie that he produced was released on the date 12/8, December 8th, which is also hinting at G128, the Ethiopian. Okay? So that's what God is saying, that symbolically Obama is the Ethiopian here in the signs. Again, that's why Michelle Obama was born exactly 128 weeks after Barack Obama was born near Ethiopia. Okay, G128, the Ethiopian. That's why his movie, Leave the World Behind, is about a reference anyway to the rapture of God's faithful who will be rescued from the Antichrist, the dark-skinned president. The first affirmative action president, right? Okay. On November 28th, which is another hint at 128, the Ethiopian, and therefore Obama, the 44th president, on 11/28/2023, because this email was written last year, 4 former first ladies headed south, as in Philip being told to go on the road south to Gaza in the Bible, to attend the funeral of Rosalind Carter, whose name is equal to 990 in Hebrew gematria. 990 is the 44th triangular number. And the funeral, the story of this event was the attendance of Jimmy Carter at the age of 99, which is a parallel with Rosalind Carter's name equaling 990. Okay, and so 4 former first ladies headed south to Georgia, the 4th state. Okay, so they headed south just like to Gaza, but actually what wasn't really recognized at the time of writing this email that is recognized now is that the funeral, this particular service, I think, was in Atlanta. And then the following day or later that day was the more private funeral service in Plains, Georgia, which is the point. And it's still relevant because no other president is associated with where he is from like Jimmy Carter, because this is designed by God. Jimmy Carter was born and lived his entire 100-year life in Plains, Georgia, except when he was in the governor's mansion and the White House. The man is known for being Mr. Plains, Georgia, in other words. And that is because it's a play on the plains of Gaza. Georgia, Gaza, plains of Gaza, which are mentioned in the Bible when King David, and the presidents are a king, at least symbolically in God's signs, King David subdued the tribes of the plains of Gaza. And that's why Carter is also known for his Camp David accord, peace accord with Israel regarding Gaza, and specifically pressuring Israel to give back or to give Gaza land to Egypt. Okay, back to what I was saying though. This date is another hint at the Ethiopian. The date is 1128. Okay, and that was the day that four former first ladies headed south to the fourth state, which is a hint at 44. Okay, and again, the funeral, who this was for, was her name equals the 44th triangular number. And that's further supported because Jimmy Carter was 99 at the time. And the 44th triangular number is 990. Now, the Carters are especially known for being from Georgia, like I just said. Georgia hints at Gaza. Rosalind Carter lobbied separately from her husband for the negotiations between Israel and Egypt, and was the first to suggest Camp David as the location for the negotiations. So that's why God used this. That's why Rosalind Carter is prophetic, and her death. She was the one responsible for the location of the Camp David Accords. And again, I just explained how this all ties to her death in Plains, Georgia. And not only is Jimmy Carter from Plains, Georgia, but so is his wife. All of her life as well. Okay. When King David came to power, he subjugated the Gaza Plains cities. The Carters are known for being from Plains, Georgia. Okay, so I did know this back then. I apologize. I thought maybe I had missed it back then. But okay, so I just explained Plains, Georgia hints at the plains of Gaza. On 128, January 28, another hint at G128, the Ethiopian. Kataib Hezbollah, that's the name of this organization, exploded its drone at the U.S. Tower 22 base in the Middle East. In other words, near Egypt. This was in retaliation for U.S. support for the war in Gaza. And again, the Ethiopian in the Bible is met by Philip in Gaza. Okay, so that's how this is relevant, because this attack was done because of the war in Gaza. Tower 22, which is the name of the U.S. base in the Middle East, hints at Tower of Babel in the Middle East, the story of the Tower of Babel in the Bible, which is also the Tower of Babel, symbolism for the mark of the beast or the mark of the Antichrist. Because the story of the Tower of Babel is about this effort of humanity coming together in a communist manner and attempting to become like God and reach the heavens with their tower without God through their technology. And the mark of the Antichrist is like this. It is transhumanism technology, which is this attempt ultimately to become like God, immortal through technology. Okay, and so Tower 22, by the way, because 22 is symbolic of the mark of the Antichrist. The inverse of the mark of the Antichrist, described in the book of Ezekiel, would have been a Tav letter. And the Tav is a symbol, because ancient Hebrew letters are symbols, The Tav was a symbol for mark, something marked, and also a symbol for prophetic sign. It's the last and 22nd letter in the Hebrew alphabet, and the mark of the Antichrist is described in the last book of the Bible, the 22nd out of 22 books in the Bible that have a total of 22 chapters. Also, the mark of the Antichrist changes a person's chromosomes. Chromosomes are paired, and each chromosome has 2 arms. So 2 and 2, as in 22. So that's why Tower 22. Also, the Twin Towers, the World Trade Center, as in Tower of Babel, Genesis chapter 11, is why the Twin Towers resembled a giant 11 in New York State, the 11th state to join the Union, and that's why also the first plane to strike the tower was Flight 11, with a crew of 11 people. It's all pointing to Genesis chapter 11, but there were 2 towers, and so that's 2 times 11, if you will. And so that's also why Tower 22. In other words, it was pointing to 9/11 and the warning of judgment from God. Furthermore, the events of 9/11 pointed to Isaiah chapter 9, verse 10 and 11, and which are about the ancient Assyrians and their raid on northern Israel. And that's where the Tower 22 base is, where the ancient Assyrians would have been. Okay, so the ancient city of Babylon was located on a plain. As is the Tower 22 base, by the way. The name of the location at which King Nebuchadnezzar set up the golden image that all of his subjects were ordered to worship is translated as Dura in the Greek Septuagint. Dura is simple English gematria. In simple English gematria, A equals 1, B equals 2, C equals 3 is 44. The 44th president will enforce the mark of the Antichrist, which is symbolized by the worship of the golden image in the book of Daniel in the Bible, in Babylon, on the plain named Dura. Okay, that's again the name of the location where King Nebuchadnezzar set up the golden image, which is the metaphor for the mark of the Antichrist, the worship of it. Okay, it won't be a statue. It's just the metaphor. The image of the beast in the book of Revelation that is a parallel with Daniel is only a metaphor, and the image of the beast is the internet. That's also why it says that the beast spoke an unutterable language. Unutterable. The precise translation of the Greek there tells us that John is communicating that what he is seeing is something that he's not familiar with because he can't understand technology of our time. But he also says in the text, in his Greek language, that the beast is speaking an unutterable language, which is computer code. Okay? That's the image of the beast. It's the cell phone. It's the computer code that the cell phone speaks to other cell phones with, and the greater internet and the totalitarian government and bank accounts, etc. Okay? That's why it's important, the image of the beast. That's why it's so important. This thing that John is looking at is speaking, communicating with other things that enforce the mark of the Antichrist. That's what's going on, right? And that's exactly what's happening now, right? In the coming days, you will be a digital person. You'll have a digital ID, and currency will be digital, and it'll all be programmed so that those who don't take the mark of the Antichrist will be restricted from buying and selling food, the rationed food, in the food shortage. Okay, and so that's why John is saying how important it is that the image of the beast, because he doesn't understand what it is. It's a screen. He's never seen a computer screen or a TV screen, right? It's an image. And it's talking, but it's not in a language he's familiar with. It's computer language. All right? Okay. That's all in Revelation chapter 13, by the way. Now, 1028, October 28th, G128, was the day that Israel went south and began its war in Gaza, just like Philip was told to go south to Gaza. October 28th was also the day of the Hunter Moon lunar eclipse, which hinted at Nimrod, the hunter, who is associated with the Tower of Babel. Like I was just talking about, the Tower 22 base being symbolic of that. In the US, the eclipse was only seen in the upper northeast, with the best view being from Maine. This was the day that the manhunt ended for the shooter, and in Glad Signs shootings, mass shootings are symbolic of SHOTs. The things that come out of guns and go into people are symbolic of the things that come out of pointy things and go into people, that are also deadly, just like SHOTs. Okay, so the manhunt for the main shooter, who killed 6 + 6 + 6 people and injured 13, this was the day that it ended. And by the way, injuring 13 and killing 18 people hints at Revelation 13:18, which is the verse regarding the mark of the Antichrist and the number of the Antichrist, 666. Okay, and so that's Revelation 13, which is why 13 injured and 18 killed by the shooter here. Let me give you a little more detail because I'm scanning the rest of the paragraph and I'm not seeing it. So Maine is the 23rd state. And the Antichrist's number is 23 because he is the basketball president who wore number 23 in high school. Also, the mark of the Antichrist changes a person's chromosomes, and a person has 23 pairs of them. Okay, so that's why the Hunter Moon was most visible from Maine, the farthest northeast you go in America. Okay, now there's also 13 injured because Nimrod was the 13th generation from Adam. That's a typo. Okay, so in the Bible, the number 13 is symbolic of the mark of the Antichrist. Well, the mark of the Antichrist is described in Revelation 13, but the number 13 is symbolic of the Antichrist because Nimrod, the 13th generation from Adam, and Haman, the type for the Antichrist who persecuted the Jews on the 2 13th days of the month, and the two Antichrists are described in the book of Revelation in chapter 13. Okay, so the manhunt ended next to a river in Maine after a submersible was used in the search for the shooter. The hunt for Red October, as in the blood moon lunar eclipse on the Hunter Moon, and again, Nimrod was a hunter in the Bible, that's why this is all relevant also. The Hunt for Red October movie ends with the submarine hiding in a river in Maine. Again, the manhunt ended when the shooter was discovered near a river after a submersible was used in the search. Okay? And the Hunt for Red October ends with the submarine hiding in a river in Maine. The day of the Hunter Moon eclipse, seen from Maine, was also the day that Matthew Perry drowned underwater after he posted a shot of the moon and said that he is Matman. Okay, you might have heard about this. A little bit of a bizarre tweet to be posting, but there was a moon it's an image of him in the distance, and he's in the tub and he's got the moon, the full moon above him, and he says that he's Matman. Okay, well, Matman in simple English gematria is equal to 82. And so is VACCINATED. So he said, his text was, I'm Matman. In other words, prophetically, spiritually, he was saying, I'm VACCINATED, which is something that people on the team that he was on are proud of. And no doubt that contributed to his death, the fact that he was Matman. You understand what I'm saying, right? It's a code, right? He was Matmaned, if you will. He was Matman. And that's because, of course, part of the reason why he died was because he was Matman. But he also died, we now know, because of taking things. Right? He was taking these things bought off of the black market, and that also contributed to his death. Okay, so let me see. Let's move on. The story of Perry's death was focused on learning the precise cause of death. It was a mystery at first. Okay, which hinted at the role of the thing played in his heart attack. Okay, because that's what happens to people who have taken the thing. Their hearts are injured. They might not have died yet. Many have died, but either way, their hearts are not like they used to be. And he drowned after playing pickleball. That's part of the story. Okay, he drowned soon after he played pickleball, which hinted at food being rationed to those who take the thing, the pointy thing. Obama's chef, which is also a hint at food, just like pickleball is, also drowned. And the news story also regards the mysterious circumstances of his drowning. Just like Matthew Perry. Both of these people, they died not too long apart. In fact, 97 days, because the name Barak in Hebrew gematria is equal to 97. These two men, they died in shallow water due to mysterious circumstances. Both of these famous people, because the chef is associated with Obama. Okay, so, and they're both associated with food. Now, Matthew Perry's first role, well, because the chef is, of course, but Perry, because Bartlett pears are the most commonly sold type of pear, and that's also the reason why I know that is because of another prophetic sign regarding Matthew Perry, which I don't think I'm going to explain in this video, but also he played pickleball right before he died. Okay. All right. Well, I'll just say this. The day that the arrests were made of the people that were supplying Matthew Perry with the things, the Queen of Ketamine, for example, was the same day that Martin Sheen shook hands with the president. And Martin Sheen played the president on West Wing, whose name was President Bartlett, as in Bartlett pears, as in Matthew Perry and President Bartlett on the same day there. Now, there's lots more to that. It was the 45th anniversary of the movie Apocalypse Now that cost $45 million to make. And also on that same day, Perry Kurtz, a comedian staple at the Comedy Store in Los Angeles, was killed in a hit and run right near where Matthew Perry died and where the arrests were made. Perry Kurtz, because the name of the colonel in the villain, if you will, in Apocalypse Now is Colonel Kurtz. And that's because of it's hinting at the Antichrist curse and the enforcement of the mark of the Antichrist, which are the things that put things into people, just like how Matthew Perry and his ketamine things, right? And so also the reason for the shaking of hands with Joe Biden for the cameras to see on the White House lawn between him and Martin Sheen is because in the movie Martin Sheen accidentally cut his hand while filming and then improvised and went with it. His severely bloodied hand, he then ended up spreading the blood around his body and around the hotel room in the iconic scene from the movie. But that's all a hint at the corrupted blood that people have after they have taken the mark of the Antichrist, the thing that puts stuff in people's blood. And also it's a hint at the right hand that's mentioned in Bible prophecy in context of taking the mark of the Antichrist. All right, so back to what I was saying. I got off onto a tangent. I do that sometimes because once you start going and explain one thing to support something you're saying, you end up going down a rabbit hole because God's true big picture of signs, patterns, and connections isn't linear. Like, although it has to be explained in a linear way, it isn't linear, and it's impossible to explain, or it's extremely difficult. Because, like I'm saying, to confirm one thing, you need a second or third witness to confirm that, and those things in themselves require second and third witnesses, and those things in themselves require second and third witnesses, and it just goes off into infinity, literally. So let's bring it all back here to what I was talking about. Okay, we were talking about October 28th, 2023, the manhunt ending on the same day as the lunar eclipse over Maine, and the manhunt ended in Maine, and we were talking about Matthew Perry dying on that day. Okay, well, let's pick it up from there. Obama's chef also drowned in the same manner, same mysterious circumstances, shallow water, association with food, etc. Now, Perry's first role in TV and also in a movie were characters named Robert. Perry died on Julia Roberts' birthday, whom he had famously dated. Sean Connery was known for being a proud Scot, like one of the things he is known for. He was not only Scottish, but he was a proud Scot. In Hunt for Red October, he takes his submarine to Penobscot River. That's the river that they're hiding in, the Penobscot River. Roberts is a Scottish name that has the same etymological root as Robertson and Robinson. Michelle Obama's maiden name is Robinson. The Ethiopian eunuch that Philip shared the gospel with on the road to Gaza was a court official of Candace, the queen of Egypt. Sorry, that's a typo. Who was in charge of all of her treasure. Michelle Obama will become the Queen of America. This is the reason for the Robert signs on October 28th. What I also didn't mention is that the man that was hunted, the shooter, his name was Robert Card. Robert Card. And then Matthew Perry, who's associated with the name Robert, because again, the two first, and God uses firsts for his signs, the two first roles, the first in TV and a movie, he played a character whose name was Robert, or something related to that, like Roberts, and he dated Julia Roberts, and he died on her birthday. So clearly the Lord is pointing to Robert here. And that's because of Robinson, Michelle Robinson. And the date, October 28th, hints at G128, the Ethiopian. Michelle Robinson Obama was born exactly 128 weeks after Barack Obama, the basketball president who wore 23, and these signs occurred in the 23rd state. The blood moon, the lunar eclipse, I should say, and the manhunt for the shooter who injured 13 and killed 18, hint at Revelation 13, the verse that regards the mark of the Antichrist, that will be used for rationed to enforce that will be enforced through rationed food, which is again why the chef and pickleball and Perry Bartlett pears, etc. Okay, we got through this very important concept here in this paragraph. Let's move on. It is now believed that February 10th will be a step in the trail of signs to Harris's predicted death in a plane crash, which will lead to Michelle Robinson Obama replacing her. This trail of signs, involving G128, leads to an explosion at Tower 22 in retaliation for support of the war in Gaza. And the Tower 22 was hit on the date 128, which hints at the Ethiopian in Gaza in the Bible. The U.S. responded to the attack on Tower 22 on the date 2-2. 222, sorry, that's a typo. The date 2-2 is 22 days before 224, which is the date it is predicted that the engine of Harris's plane will explode, as in the drone that exploded at the Tower 22 base. Okay, now, there's first of all, let's just start here first, I guess. February 24th, because now it is November of 2024, February 24th also was a step in the trail of science. I explained this in the other videos. And when the prediction comes to pass that Kamala Harris's plane will crash on December 24th, the wise person will recognize that they need to watch every minute of every video on this channel. So I won't explain how it works again. I'll just say this. It's a big picture of signs. And it is through the connections between the prophetic signs that God is able to tell stories. This is why the full intended, properly understood meaning cannot be understood without the context and connections between the prophetic signs, something that others that are interested in prophetic signs don't appreciate, really. And that's why the vast majority of prophetic signs are completely missed by everyone and that are only being explained on this channel. But this is how it works. And the reason why God does this is because it would be one thing for God to simply tap someone on the shoulder and say, hey, tell the world that such and such is going to happen on such and such date. But that would essentially give us nothing. Whereas it is through these trails of interconnected signs that are leading to the event that God is able to tell these stories like I'm telling in this video, because all of the information I'm explaining in this video is learned or has been learned in a process of studying the interconnected signs. You understand? And through these stories, God is able to communicate extremely important knowledge and information that everyone needs to know. Okay, and so that's how it works. And February 24th was another step. And it wasn't even near the last step. There were a few more between February 24th and December 24th, which are explained in the other videos. Now, okay, now back to the Biden's response to the attack on Tower 22 on the date 2/2, 22 days before February 24th, the response included 2 bomber planes. And their mission took 2 times 22 hours. 44 hours, because the 44th president is the Antichrist. In the mission, targets were bombed in 2 countries. Okay, so, and those targets were in the area of where the Tower of Babel was in the Bible. It's absolutely amazing. Now, Matthew Perry died on Julia Roberts' birthday on the date 10/28, which hints at G128. And Julia Roberts stars in the movie Leave the World Behind, which was again produced by the Obamas, who were born exactly 128 weeks apart. And that movie was released on Netflix on the date 12/8, which hints at G128. Okay, so it's amazing. So Matthew Perry not only hints at Michelle Robinson, but also through Julia Roberts, we bring it back to confirm everything. It's like a circular second witness here, because that's how God's true big picture of signs, patterns, and connections works. It works on the principle of second and third and multiple witnesses confirming a matter, as the Bible says is required. And so that's why Julia Roberts connects to Matthew Perry, but also her movie was released just after Matthew Perry died. And the relevance again is also confirmed because the 2 dates hint at G128, the Ethiopian. I forgot to add that the name of the shooter was Robert Card. This is why his body was discovered at the time of the full moon, and the discovery of Perry's body after he had tweeted about the moon. Perry's first acting roles involved the name Robert, and he died on Julia Roberts' birthday, a woman whom he had dated. The big reason for these connections involving all of this hints at Michelle Obama and the number 128 is that Michelle was born exactly 128 weeks after Barack Obama was born. Okay, so it was back in March that this was first learned. All right, now we are up to date. We're going to talk about the recent signs on November 6th. This email is composed on November 7th, but we are going to get into some amazing things now. More about Dr. Moreau here. This is the theme of this video. We began with it. And we are going to end with this update to what God is communicating regarding all of this. In other words, another Dr. Moreau sign. It's amazing. So, in the link here, you may have heard about these monkeys that had escaped the laboratory in South Carolina. That was on November 6th. Okay? Part of the story is how Alpha Genesis, the name of the company, was recently given a federal, making this a national judgment sign, a federal contract to maintain Morgan Island, aka Monkey Island. Okay, not only do they have this laboratory with tons of monkeys, from which these monkeys escaped, they were also recently, and the articles, all the news stories mention it, how it was recently given a federal contract for Monkey Island, the true name being Morgan Island. Surely this points to the island of Dr. Moreau. Okay? Morgan, Monkey Island, Morgan Island, Island of Moreau, right? Now, you might have also picked up that earlier we were talking about Morgan Spurlock, the guy who did the documentary Super Size Me. We talked about that earlier, right? Well, guess what? We now have Morgan Island in connection to something that's clearly hinting at Dr. Moreau Island. Furthermore, it's monkeys, animals, and although I can't say for sure, I would be surprised if there isn't a half primate, half human character in the Dr. Moreau movie, right? That said, monkeys are kind of like half human, half animal, right? They're kind of human-like. Anyway, so it's also 83 days, the state of the sign, the escape of the monkeys. It's 83 days to the 90-foot statue unveiling, the official unveiling of this statue, of the Hanuman statue in Harris County, which is Houston, okay? And 83 is the 23rd prime number, and God pairs 9 and 23 to confirm his signs and connections. And if we think about it, one simple way in which God would provide a second witness for us, is, and this is how it works, as I explained, his big picture of signs, is through pairing certain numbers together, such as 9 and 23. And I know this because I've been studying his big picture of signs from morning until night for more than full-time hours for 7 years. The basketball president who wore 23 was inaugurated in 2009, and the inverse of the mark of the Antichrist described in Ezekiel chapter 9 changes a person's chromosomes, for which there are 23 pairs. There were 43 monkeys that escaped. The reciprocal of 43 is 0.23. Okay, so that's another confirmation of the 23rd prime number of days to the 90-foot statue unveiling of the monkey man statue. Oh, and whoa. You know what? I didn't even realize this very obvious thing. Hanuman, this character in the Hindu religion, is half animal, half human. It's a Dr. Moreau animal. He's half ape, half human. Hanuman, the human monkey god. It's amazing. It's amazing. So the monkeys escaped. Not only does it connect with the monkey, it's a monkey man statue. It's a Dr. Moreau statue. Wow. So that's why it's 83 days, because that's clear. It's a 23rd prime number connection. But if we need another confirmation, it was 43 monkeys, and the reciprocal of 43 is 23. And the monkeys are in the fourth plus fourth state. And God pairs 9, 23, and 44, because the basketball president who wore 23 was inaugurated in 2009 as the 44th president. Some stories say 40 monkeys. Some of the stories round it off in the headlines or whatever to 40 monkeys. This is in the 8th state, or rather the 4 plus 4th state, which is a confirmation of the 40 monkeys, but also 40 monkeys in the 8th state hints at 84 or 48. Barack Obama is predicted to become the 48th president, but the name Obama in Hebrew gematria is equal to 84, and he was born on the date 8/4. Okay, but also this was 84 days. The escape of the monkeys, the 40 monkeys in the 8th state, was 84 days after the World Health Organization declared monkeypox to be a health crisis. November 6th is 215 days after 4/5, April 5th. The date of the release of the movie Monkey Man, directed by, or maybe produced or both, Jordan Peele, who became famous for Mad TV, as in people going mad when they are demonically possessed and becoming monsters, like we're talking about in this video, Okay, so anyway, Monkey Man was released. It's a horror movie on the same day that another horror movie, another famous one, was released, The First Omen. Like I'm saying, June 9th will be the date of the first symbolic beginning of something, the first omen, in other words. And this 4/5 date was the day that P. Diddy posted his video, and only it, as a post in defiance of the recent raid of his mansions at that time. His video for the song Victory, which is known for being almost exactly 8 minutes long. Okay, and again, on November 6th, we had this sign in the 8th state. So the reason why P. Diddy's Victory video is relevant is because it was realized even before 4/5 that God was using P. Diddy in the signs to point to the movie Apocalypse Now, which cost $45 million to make. That's because this video Victory, and again, this was recognized before he posted it, is apocalyptic and stars Dennis Hopper, who also stars in Apocalypse Now. There's lots more to that. I explain it in other videos. But anyway, that's why this is all relevant. And then after this was already known, and even before the date 4/5, it was already known that God was pointing to the 45th anniversary of Apocalypse Now. Then, after this was already known, P. Diddy posted on the date 4/5, which hints at 45, the video that was the first thing to clue me in that God was pointing to Apocalypse Now that cost $45 million and its 45th anniversary. Okay. Anyway, so, by the way, this 83 days here, that's the unveiling of the Hanuman statue. That was on the 45th anniversary of the Apocalypse Now that cost $45 million. 45 is the 9th triangular number, and that's also a pairing with the 90-foot statue of the Hanuman. Okay. Okay, so what I'm saying here, though, is that November 6th is 215 days after 4/5, and November 6th is 215 days before the first omen, the symbolic beginning of the demonic realm colliding with the earthly realm, June 9th, 2025. Okay, now 215 hints at, one thing that it hints at is Philadelphia. It's the area code of Philadelphia. The Church of Philadelphia is the only one of the 7 that Jesus said would be spared the tribulation period and persecution from the Antichrist. This makes 4/5/2024 430 days before June 9th. That's amazing because H430 in the Hebrew Concordance is the word for God, but in the Bible, 430 is symbolism for Egypt. And that's also why 43 monkeys. Because the Israelites, the Jews, were afflicted for 430 years before they escaped Egypt and the persecution from the king of Egypt, who is a type for the Antichrist. So that's why 43 monkeys. It hints at persecution. And that's confirmed with the 430 days connecting these dates that have at the center point the 43 monkeys. So 430 days, the center point date is 43 monkeys. That confirms the 430 days and makes everything that I'm saying true. Of course, the predictions have to come to pass for it to really be true. And that is why the predictions are being made. 43 also hints at, like I just said, 430, the 430 years in Egypt. Morgan Spurlock died on 5/23, May 23rd in New York City. 1,776 days after the Manhattan blackout on July 13th, 2019, on Manhattan Island, as in Morgan Island, Monkey Island, Moreau Island. Okay, Manhattan Island. Okay, now the Manhattan blackout was exactly 923 months after the Manhattan Project officially began on August 13th, 1942. And I just explained how God pairs 9 and 23 together to confirm the signs and connections. Furthermore, on the day of the Manhattan blackout was an Obama sign, because that was the day that Hurricane Barry hit the 6+6+6th state, and Hurricane Barry was known for the power outages that it caused. On the same day as the Manhattan blackout, and of course Barry is Obama's name, Barack changed his name from Barry to Barack as an adult. And who does that? Who does that? Who changes a good American name to Barack? You know what I'm saying? I mean, think about that. What does that say about this man? Okay. Okay, so the Manhattan blackout was 110 minutes shy, because in Manhattan, 110 stories collapsed on 9/11. The Manhattan blackout was 110 minutes shy of an exact 42 years, because in Bible prophecy, 42 months is associated with the Antichrist. But it is only symbolic. We are now at the end of the 42 months. Okay, it was exactly 42 years after the New York City blackout on July 13th, 1977, which was the same day that the 1977 Island of Dr. Moreau was released. There are 3 Island of Dr. Moreau movies in history. Now we are talking about the second of the 3 that was released on the same day as the New York City blackout. And I have just connected the second Dr. Moreau movie to the death of Morgan Spurlock, who, as I am saying, is Alice in Wonderland, demons coming through portals, doors, symbolism, supersize me, changing of the physical nature of the person, just like Dr. Moreau. Okay, so this Dr. Moreau movie was released exactly 7 months after filming began on December 13th, 76, in the U.S. Virgin Islands in St. Croix, which is Cross, on a $726 million budget. That's quite something. Most of the time, Wikipedia doesn't go into 2 decimal places regarding how much the budget for a movie is, but that's because this is from God. And that's because the number 726 is extremely prophetic in context of what we were talking about, and also cross for that matter, because the 726th word in Strong's Greek Concordance is the word that means rapture, as in God's faithful being raptured the day before the symbolic beginning of the demonic realm colliding with the earthly realm. Because of what we were talking about. Because what's going to happen is the mass demonic possession and the monsters, and God's faithful don't need to go through that. And so that's why this second Dr. Moreau also, by the way, the budget was this amount, but it was exactly 7 months, because in Bible prophecy, 7 years symbolizes the period of the end and the Antichrist. And again, it's only symbolic. Those that are still looking at a 7-year timeline haven't been watching. No offense. But you're not watching, and Jesus commanded us to watch. If you were watching, you would know that the signs began, and it's been 7 years of prophetic signs, chock full of them, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds that no one knows about that are only being explained on this channel. That began in 2017, 7 years ago. Okay, now, July 13th, 1977 was 5 months and 23 days after the inauguration of Carter. Why is that relevant? Well, first of all, it hints at 523, which is the 9 times 11th prime number. And that hints at Revelation 9:11, which is the verse that symbolizes what we are talking about. This collision between the demonic realm and the earthly realm. Okay? But also, Morgan Spurlock, again, as I explained earlier, died on the date 523. I think I explained this anyway. And again, 523 is the 9 times the 11th prime number, which hints at Revelation 9:11. Okay. And King Apollyon, for that matter. And that's why all of this connects to Jimmy Carter, because he is king symbolism and God's signs, and he was inaugurated 666 days before Jonestown. And Jonestown is known for the mass suicide murder, because it was both, and the mass suicide murder involved pointy things. Everyone knows about how they drank the Kool-Aid, but that was after the pointy things in order to speed up the process. And it was also the day of the release of Earth, Wind, and Fire's arguably most famous song, September, which God has used in his prophetic signs, which I explain in the Jimmy Carter videos. But Earth, Wind, and Fire, of course, is a hint at judgment. Okay? The elements used, the acts of God, that will be judgment. In other words, fire, the fire, in other words, the coming catastrophic fire from the sun. Okay, let's move on. The monkey's story on November 6th that hinted at Morgan Island is 45% of a year after Morgan Spurlock died at age 53. I've already touched upon the number 45 here. The reason why this is such a very important number in God's signs is this, for one thing, primarily. The reciprocal. It's the number hidden within the number 45, because 1 divided by 45 is 0.022, which, again, the number 22 symbolizes the mark of the Antichrist. In other words, for example, the 45th trumpet was trumpeting not only the Antichrist, Obama, but the mark of the Antichrist. Also, 22 is symbolic of the second coming of Lord Jesus Christ. It is also a hint at the second presidency for the Antichrist. And also, 0.022 hints at 220. 220 is 2 times 110. There were 2 times 110 stories that collapsed on 9/11. Jesus, in his first triumphal entry, his official arrival in his first coming, was on the date 110 in the Hebrew calendar, which is symbolized by the number 110. Therefore, the second coming is symbolized by 2 times 110, which is why 2 times 110 stories fell. 2 times 110 because 2 times the date 110. The first coming was 110. The second coming is a 2 times the date 110, if you will. Also, 220 in the Greek concordance, the 220th word, is rooster, which is symbolic of Peter, which means rock in Greek. And rock in the Bible is symbolic of Jesus. Okay, so that's 45 for you. And, there's so much importance to 45 now. Again, Morgan Spurlock died 45% of a year before this story on November 6th regarding Morgan Island. And again, the theme is the same, because Morgan Spurlock, Super Size Me, portals, demons, Island of Moreau. Demons, possession, monsters, you get the idea. I've explained it now. Now, Morgan Spurlock died at the age of 53. That's because the reciprocal of 53 is important, which is 0.0188. This 188 number that God frequently uses, because the H188th word in the concordance is the word that means woe, ! Used in the context in the Bible of extreme judgment from God. Spurlock died 666% of a year after the Revelation 12 sign on 9/23/2017. That is amazing. That is amazing. I think I went over this before, though, actually. Again, the date that Spurlock died was known a long time beforehand as being, at one time, believed to be the date of the rapture. Well, actually, technically, just a few days before it, because it was the day of the Jupiter-Venus conjunction, and also aligned with Pentecost. But anyway, long time before the date came and went, that was recognized that it was correct, but would be a step. That's, again, how his big picture of science works. They are steps. That's what creates a big picture of science. Steps. So the information isn't wrong. In fact, the death of Spurlock on the date is 100% confirmation of that the analysis was correct, that God was pointing to this date ahead of time for this particular theme as well, which is the rapture. But the rapture is a rapture from the moment of the demonic realm colliding with the earthly realm, which is what Morgan Spurlock symbolizes because of Super Size Me and Alice in Wonderland. Okay, so 666, of course, is the number of the Antichrist in Bible prophecy, and so that's why it's astounding that Morgan Spurlock died 666% of a year after the Revelation 12 sign, which is the sign that symbolizes the rapture. It's the fulfillment of the sign in Revelation chapter 12. The once in a human history alignment of the stars that clearly fulfill this prophecy. That's, by the way, not a debate. That's, well, you know, to say that, of course, requires that the prediction being made in this video comes to pass. You know, it's just me saying it until the prediction comes to pass. But when the prediction comes to pass, for those that were skeptical, maybe you don't even know what I'm talking about. But for those that were skeptical and didn't believe it, this proves it. Okay, it was the Revelation 12 sign in the night sky. Okay. Anyway, this is also, this 666% of a year is also exactly 40 plus 40 months. Of course, that hints at the 44th president. This is also 6 years and 8 months, which hints at 68, which is the equivalent of Barack Obama in simple English gematria. Also, in the parallel, the secondary fulfillment of the prophecy in Revelation 17, Barack Obama is the 6th and 8th king in the 5th through 8th king's prophecy that identifies the Antichrist. 9/23/17 was also exactly, this is the date of this Revelation 12 sign, 1,017 months after the release of the first island of Dr. Moreau, named Island of Lost Souls. 1017 hints at 117, which is the equivalent in Hebrew gematria of the phrase in Hebrew, let it divide, that occurs right at the beginning of the Bible. And the dividing chapter of the Bible is Psalms 117. And the dividing point of the Roman Empire, when it reached its maximum expansion and then began to contract, was 117 AD. And the mark of the Antichrist is for the purpose of dividing the sheep from the goats, the wheat from the chaff, the true Christians from the quote-unquote Christians, and other people. And so that's why the significance of 1,017 months exactly between the Revelation 12 sign and the first Island of Dr. Moreau movie, Island of Lost Souls. The drone hit, this drone that we were talking about, hit Tower 22, which again hints at Genesis 11 tower times 2, as in 9/11, the two towers, right? That looked like a giant 11 in the 11th state that was hit by Flight 11 with a crew of 11. Tower of Babel, because, by the way, Jesus coined the phrase the 11th hour, which referred in ancient Israel to the last hour of daylight before darkness. And in English, the last hour, 11th hour is an idiom that means last chance. Time is running out, as in America's last chance for it to repent and turn back to God. Okay, so the Tower of Babel equals the mark, equals 22, Tower 22 in the Middle East. So this date that it hit the drone was 116 days before the death of Morgan Spurlock. which is 45%, as in 0.022, before the date 11.6, which is what 116 hints at also. 116 is the equivalent of Alpha Genesis in Gematria. The drone hit on 128, which hints at G128, the Ethiopian. The ancient Kush Empire was located in an area known as Island of Moreau. Moreau means dark-skinned, as we explained earlier. But again, keep in mind that I'm writing to some friends here that haven't been written to about this subject for like 10, 11 months, right? Or more. So anyway, it's just a review, okay? We talked about this earlier. I know I'm repeating it. But what's interesting, too, that I didn't mention is that the name of this company that had the monkeys that escaped, Alpha Genesis, by the way. Okay, so Jesus said his name, or that he is the Alpha and the Omega. The Omega is the last letter in the Greek alphabet. And what Jesus is saying is that he is the Alpha and the Tav. Again, the Tav mark was used as the inverse of that for those who would be saved. The mark of the Antichrist is the inverse of that. And the Tav in ancient Hebrew was a cross. It was an X, and at one point it was also a cross. Okay, so Alpha Genesis is the name. Now Genesis, because Genesis chapter 6 tells us that the fallen angels mixed with the humans and corrupted the chromosomes. And then the flood needed to cleanse the earth, right? As the story goes. And I say that because I personally don't believe the entire world was flooded. I believe in a localized flood, and there's all kinds of evidence for that with the Black Sea. There was a land barrier where Istanbul is, and then that broke, and immediately, like the Mediterranean Sea flooded into the Black Sea. And we can find all kinds of archaeological evidence for that. Furthermore, that's why the ark ended up in the Ararat Mountains, which is next to the Black Sea. Okay, so anyway, the point is, though, that the story is an allegory that's relevant. And that's why Alpha Genesis is the name, because the monkeys are hinting at the monkeypox and the coming pointy thing for monkeypox, but the people who will get monkeypox have had their immune systems destroyed by taking the CVD pointy thing, which is also the mark of the Antichrist, and which has corrupted their chromosomes, just like in the book of Genesis. Okay, and again, the monkey here is also a metaphor for half man, half human, which is what Island of Dr. Moreau is about. Okay, now, so the first Island of Dr. Moreau movie was released in 32, as in 1932. Obama is equal to 32 in simple English gematria. And the 32nd president was the only president to serve more than 2 terms, just like Obama will. 32 is 8 times 4. The name Obama is equal to 84 in Hebrew gematria, and he was born on the date 8-4, and 32 is 4 times 8, and he will become the 48th president. You get the idea. The 32nd prime number is G131, which is the word that means blood disease, which is obviously pointing to what someone gets when they take the mark of the Antichrist. Okay, 45, as in 0.022, years later, after the release of the first Dr. Moreau Island movie in 32, 45 years later, because again, 32 hints at the blood disease, and 45 hints at the mark. Okay, so you got blood disease mark. 45 years later was the release of the second Island of Dr. Moreau movie in 1977. This 1977 movie was the second by American International Pictures in a H.G. Wells film cycle. It followed Foods of the Gods, about supersized rodents and insects. I'll just repeat that. The 1977 movie Island of Dr. Moreau was the second of 3 movies in a film cycle that were being made or were made of H.G. Wells's stories that he wrote, okay? And the first one in this series is called Foods of the Gods, and it's about supersized rodents and insects. What have we been talking about in this video? The connection to the movie Super Size Me, and how it is symbolism for all of this, as I just said in the next sentence, which confirms the connections to the death of the creator of the movie Super Size Me. The third and last movie of the H.G. Wells film cycle was Empire of the Ants. The plot takes place on a remote island, and the ants are supersized. So it's just like Dr. Island of Moreau, right? And the ants are supersized like Super Size Me and Morgan Spurlock and Alice in Wonderland, and the portals of demons coming through them. The name of the company responsible for the escaped monkeys and responsible for the monkeys on Monkey Island, is Alpha Genesis. The date was 11/6, and Alpha Genesis is equal to 116 in simple English gematria. Also on 11/6, Trump trumpeted his first appointee. Okay, God uses firsts for signs, and he also uses trump. In archaic English, the word trump means trumpet, or the sounding of a trumpet. Trump is God's trumpet. Okay? So Trump trumpeted his first appointee. So this is a big deal for prophetically. Susie Wiles as chief of staff. Susie Wiles, okay? Ephesians, and that was on the date 11/6. On the day of the Alpha Genesis sign, and Alpha Genesis is equal to 116. Ephesians 6:11 is this in the Bible. Put on the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. Wow. That ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. Susie Wiles. Ephesians 6:11, Susie Wiles, the date 11/6, written outside of the U.S. as 6:11. 11/6 is 11 weeks and 6 days before the date 128, G128, in other words, the Ethiopian, in 2025, which will be exactly 40 years, which since at Egypt, because the Israelites, after escaping the persecution in Egypt, were in the desert for 40 years. So this coming 128 date, which since at the Ethiopian, will be exactly 40 years, which is symbolic of Egypt, where the Ethiopian was from in the Bible, because he was representative of the Queen of Egypt. 40 years exactly after the recording of We Are the World, a song for charity for famine in Ethiopia, which was 19 years and 3 months exactly before the completion of the Gateway Arch. Judgment symbolically begins on a people in the Bible at the gate. 19 years and 3 months hints at 193, the 44th prime number, as in the 44th president. Judgment. Kamala Harris is predicted to die in a plane crash next to the Gateway Arch in St. Louis, which will lead to the rise of the 44th president. Now, the Gateway Arch was completed exactly 711 months, which hints at Genesis 7:11, the verse in which the flood judgment began before 128, 2025, which will be 11 weeks and 6 days after the date 11:6, and the Alpha Genesis story and Wiles story, and which hints at Ephesians 6:11. Wow. So something is going to happen on January 28th. That's very clear. This isn't by any means the only reason for knowing this, what I just explained. I speculate that it's possible the thing that might happen on that date is the death of Jimmy Carter, but I'm not sure. I say that because other Jimmy Carter step dates lead to this, but it doesn't mean that that's going to be the date of Jimmy Carter's death. What is also interesting is that it will be 4 + 4 days after what I believe will be the day that Barack Obama will be inaugurated on January 20th. Anyway, we'll have to come back to that. The escaped monkeys story on November 6th was 1,019 days, which is at 9/11 and Revelation 9/11. Also, 1,019 is the 6 + 6 + 6th triangular number. Okay, so the escaped monkeys on November 6th was 1,019 days after the monkeys had been found and caught after they had escaped their cages, freedom, as in the escaped monkeys in South Carolina, after a truck crashed on a highway in Pennsylvania. Say there was a truck carrying 100 monkeys, which hints at the 100th monkey phenomena, and some of the monkeys escaped. I think it was 10. But let's just read on here. This was the same day that the Canadian trucker freedom protest began on the Transcontinental Highway. Okay, so again, the truck crashed and the monkeys had got their freedom, and it crashed on a highway. And it was the same day that the Canadian trucker freedom protest began, the symbolic beginning, on the Transcontinental Highway as they drove across the country to the nation's capital. Now that day, which was January 22nd, 2022, was exactly 4 + 4 + 4 months after player number 44, the home run king, Hank Aaron, died after he took the pointy thing, and the trucker freedom protest was a drive along the parallel to the 7 × 7th longitudinal line, the parallel line. And it began January 22nd, 2022, exactly 7 × 7 years after 7 Supreme Court justices voted to legalize abortions. What I am saying here is that the mark of the Antichrist, for which the trucker freedom fighters were protesting, is the mark of the Antichrist. It's also why it was abhorrently given to people's children who condoned the murder of other people's babies in their wombs. And anyway, the border wall of security, the 49th parallel, the 7 × 7th parallel, the sign was 7 × 7 years after the 7 Supreme Court justices, because the Israelites enacted a 3 sets of 7 symbolically before the walls of security collapsed in God's judgment, as in the border wall of security that the trucker freedom protest went along as they were blowing their horns, as in their trumpets, as in the Israelites that blew their trumpets as they marched around the walls of security of Jericho. The escaped monkeys story on January 22nd, 2022 is 1,102 days before this date again, January 28th, 2025. the sum of the divisors of 1102 are 600 plus 600 plus 600, 666. So another confirmation for January 28th could be the day that Jimmy Carter dies. And there are 4 plus 4 divisors. 44th president, 666. As this email thread explained, the cursed making of the 1996 The Island of Dr. Moreau is an important prophetic sign in itself. The making of the movie is a sign in itself, as I explained. The documentary made about this, named Lost Soul, The Doomed Journey of Richard Stanley's Island of Dr. Moreau, was released 10 years, 1 month, and 19 days, which hints at Revelation 9:11, the verse that symbolizes the demonic possession and the demonic realm colliding with the earthly realm, etc., before the Alpha Genesis escaped monkeys story. That's amazing beyond words. Again, the release of the documentary Island of Dr. Moreau, the documentary about the making of Island of Dr. Moreau, was released 10 years, 1 month, and 19 days before the Alpha Genesis escaped monkey story, which points to Monkey Island, Morgan Island, Moreau Island, you know what I'm saying. On the day of the Wiles of the Devil sign. It's amazing. It's so amazing. It's so amazing. Because it hints at Revelation 9:11. That makes the connection valid. It's from God. The documentary about the making of Apocalypse Now and the documentary about the making of the Island of Dr. Moreau are both prophetic signs in themselves. Both are famous and both are prophetic signs in themselves. And there are striking parallels. It's very interesting. Even their titles are related. The documentary about the making of Apocalypse Now is titled Hearts of Darkness, a filmmaker's apocalypse. And the other one, about the making of Dr. Moreau, the documentary is titled Lost Soul, the doomed journey of Stanley's Island of Dr. Moreau. Stanley was the director, the filmmaker. A filmmaker's apocalypse, doomed journey of Stanley's Island of Dr. Moreau, Lost Soul, Hearts of Darkness, okay? These are stunning parallels, but there's more. The production of both movies was cursed. The production of Apocalypse Now, which is why a documentary was made about it, you could say was cursed, and definitely it's said widely that the production of the Island of Dr. Moreau was cursed. Both are about filming on a remote tropical island. Okay, because the Apocalypse Now was filmed on an island in the Philippines, right? And the Island of Dr. Moreau, of course, is filmed, it's about a tropical island, and it's filmed on a tropical island. I forget which one. Oh yeah, it's St. Croix, the Cross Island, right? Both stories, the U.S. Virgin Islands island, both stories involve stormy weather. And by the way, the fact that it's a U.S. island makes it more of a U.S. sign, and that's what God's signs are. They're for the U.S., God's Gentile nation. Both stories involve stormy weather. Okay, so the big part of the story of the Apocalypse Now making is the typhoon that came through the Philippines and destroyed the very expensive set and all this, and because of which production was shut down for a long time. And so there was involvement of stormy weather, and I already explained earlier, for example, the lightning strikes that hit the director's mother's house 3 times, okay? Now, both of these documentaries that are about the making of these movies involve Marlon Brando. Marlon Brando, in both of these movies, is in the role of the eccentric alpha male who has gone mad. In Apocalypse Now, he plays Colonel Kurtz. And in Island of Dr. Moreau, he plays Dr. Moreau, the villainous alpha male who has gone mad. And that's an astounding parallel in itself. In both movies, Marlon Brando's appearance were problems for the director. Big problems, if you know about it. Like, so the whole movie Apocalypse Now had to be changed and altered, the ending, because Marlon Brando showed up fat. And likewise for Island of Dr. Moreau, but from what I understand, much fatter even than that. And it just got out of hand, but Marlon Brando had to be in the movie. So the director had to work, just like in Apocalypse Now, Frankenheimer had to work around the situation. And at the same time deal with Marlon Brando's ego and him dictating back to the dictatorial film director and about what his character is going to do and not do. And it's a horror show. No pun intended. So that's amazing, because again, a big part of the curse is Marlon Brando, his behavior on the set, but also his appearance. Oh, no kidding, because what we are talking about in the theme of this video is the altered appearance of people, as in Dr. Moreau Island, hybridization of animals and humans, right? The coming monstrousness of people. And come to think of it, Marlon Brando's appearance was horrid for the movie. It was his last movie, of course. The Island of Dr. Moreau. It was really bad. And he had to cover himself, from what I recall, in white makeup and make it appear to be a part of the plot of like him going mad, and on and on. Anyway, I think that's also a clue for the monstrosity of people's physical appearance that's coming. The appearance of Marlon Brando is being a big part of the curse of these movies. Wow. I just put that together just now. Wow. Hearts of Darkness was released on November 27th, 1991. Exactly 1,190 weeks, which ends at 9/11 and Revelation 9/11. And 1 day, which is fine. It's a combination of ones and a 9. Before Lost Soul was released. And another reason why that's fine is because the release of movies can only be typically on a Friday. So in the case of like something like this, I give God the benefit of the doubt here. Like I give leeway because of that. Because the connection needs to be lined up, but if one of the dates has to be a specific day of the week or something like that, therefore, because if it's not like that, then why wouldn't God make it precise? If it's from God, you would expect the connection to be 100% precise, unless there's a reason why God, is 1 day off or something, right? In this case, this is totally fine because, again, release dates for movies have to be on a particular day of the week, typically. Okay, so we have the connection here between the release of Hearts of Darkness and the other documentary. It's amazing. It's a 9/11 connection. And it's exactly what we're talking about, this theme of Revelation 9/11. And the coming mass demonic possession and the people changing into werewolves, etc. Well, okay, wow. So the Lost Soul documentary about the Island of Dr. Moreau was released 10 years, 1 month, and 9 days, another 9/11, Revelation 9/11, before the Monkey Island and Wilds of the Devil signs on 11/6. November 6th. And by the way, 11 times 6 equals 66. The book of Revelation is the 66th book in the Bible. 11:6, as in 6:6, is 6 times 6 days before the predicted death of President Trump, the Orange Man. Which will be 888 hours, 37 days, as in 3 sets of 7. And Trump, walls of security, 3 sets of 7, trumpets. After Trump wore an orange vest when he was mocking how Biden had made fun of his followers as being garbage. He wore an orange vest and got into a garbage truck. And that day was 7 plus 7 plus 7 days after the Tropicana oranges signs, as I explained, which pointed to Coppola's The Godfather starring Marlon Brando, in which scenes with oranges precede a calamity for the person in the scene. For example, Marlon Brando's orange peel in his mouth to amuse his grandson. Okay, oops. Correction. Trump's predicted death on December 12th will be 888 hours after his election win, not 888 hours after he wore the orange vest. Trump is equal to 88 in simple English gematria, and Donald J. Trump is equal to 888 in English gematria. December 12th will be 8 times 8 days after the Tropicana oranges signs, when Milton hit the beaches of Florida and then passed over the area of Florida that grows oranges. As explained in the Simon videos, this pointed to Coppola's Black Stallion about a horse on a beach. Can't get into the details. It's amazing beyond words, literally. So amazing, but I'm not going to get into it here. Because again, like I said, it's three-dimensional. You go on and on and on and, to explain things. It's not possible to explain, really, the big picture of science. It's difficult, I should say. Okay, so which is part of all of this connects Coppola to The Godfather. So Coppola directed Black Stallion, which was also, I think, released in the same year that Apocalypse Now was released. Anyway, which therefore hints at the calamity of the Orange Man. The colors of Halloween are black and orange, as in Black Stallion and The Godfather that uses oranges, which is why Trump wore the orange vest 7 plus 7 plus 7 days after the connection to Black Stallion and Bueller's, the pitcher for the Los Angeles Dodgers, who wore jersey number 7 plus 7 plus 7, his watch being stolen at a horse race track, and on, as explained in the other videos, okay? And Dodgers, as in Tampa dodging the hurricane, and on the day of the Dodgers sign. Okay, so on the day of the Monkey Island sign, November 6th, was the death of the actor who was known for playing Candyman in the Candyman horror film series. He was 69. 6 divided by 9 is 0.666. Tony Todd was born exactly 6 years and 8 months before the Antichrist Obama was born. Barack Obama is equal to 68 in simple English gematria, and again, he is the 6th and 8th kings in the prophecy. Todd reprised his role in 2021 Todd reprised his role for the 2021 sequel. The screenplay was written by Jordan Peele, as in Mad TV, as in Monkey Man movie, like was mentioned, and produced by Monkey Paw Productions. Not only did he make a movie named Monkey Man, but his production company is named Monkey Paw, okay? Obviously, we were talking about monkeypox and how it's related to the coming people going mad, okay? And, okay, so Monkey Man was directed by Jordan Peele, as I mentioned earlier. And that is it, my friends. Now, what I'm going to do is just show you a diagram to put this into perspective. I'm just going to quickly, it'll help a lot of people to visualize all of these connections with the diagram. Won't take very long to explain it, though. All right, it occurred to me that I missed the big obvious one here. This connection here from the Alpha Genesis escaped monkeys sign, which is that it is 48 days to the predicted death of Kamala Harris in a plane crash, which will lead to the rise of the Antichrist, Barack Obama. And by the way, something I didn't mention also is that there was a well-known interview of him when he emptied his pocket. It was to, I believe, a teenager who was interviewing him. If not, it was a young college student. Anyway, apparently Barack Obama carries a lot in his pocket. But one of the things he pulled out of his pocket, these mementos that he says he carries with him all of the time, which I'm sure is a lie, is a statue of Hanuman. Forget what he said, the reason why he carries that statue around with him. Maybe someone gave it to him or something. But the man says that he carries a Hanuman, monkey man statue around in his pocket everywhere he goes. So, anyway, he's predicted to become the 48th president through the death of Kamala Harris in a plane crash. He will replace her, as I have explained. But what is also confirmation of this astounding connection here is that, again, it was 40 monkeys and so it was 43 monkeys, but many of the news stories said that it was 40 monkeys. Sorry, my computer is acting up. I do have no idea what the reason is. Well, I have an idea. It's the AI that's been implanted into it by Microsoft. It's screwing up my computer. As you can see, my screen shift around and I have to fix it while I'm talking here. So I apologize. I do not know at this time what I'm going to do about this. It is seriously impeding my ability to do work. And so as you can see, the ministry is in serious danger here. Okay. So anyway, well, however long it takes, I'll just keep fixing it, and if it keeps fooling around with me, I'll just keep fixing it, right? Okay. So many of the headlines said 40 monkeys. They rounded it off to 40 monkeys, and this was in the 8th state. That was part of the story, the state that it was in. And furthermore, Kamala Harris has had a number of prophetic visits to the 8th state in the last year. That's explained in other videos. So anyway, this clearly hints at 48. I already talked about this actually earlier, because that is a confirmation of this 84 days that I mentioned back to the day that the World Health Organization declared the monkeypox to be a health emergency. Okay, so that was 84 days, and that was confirmed through this 40 monkeys in 8th state. Well, that's also why this is confirmed too. And Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash in St. Louis, near an area of the country nicknamed Little Egypt. And that's all relevant to this whole video, because the Ethiopian was coming from Egypt, and he was returning to Egypt. He, in the Bible, the Ethiopian is the representative of the Queen of Egypt. And furthermore, Ethiopia is just south of Egypt. And again, the island of Moreau area south of Egypt was the region in which the dark-skinned people lived, the Kush Empire. Okay, Moreau, again, as I explained earlier, Barack Obama being the first black president, the first affirmative action president, who will be the 48th president. And so anyway, that's why this is all relevant in the context of this video. Her crash will be near Little Egypt. That's why she'll crash in St. Louis. Okay, so this is an astounding connection here. This 48 days from the 40 monkeys in the 8th state. Okay, so here we have the diagram, and this is the date, 11/6, all right? the date of the monkey escape, the Alpha Genesis story, which equals 116 in simple English gematria, 43 monkeys. 40 monkeys, 8th state, 84 equals Obama, Monkey Island, Morgan Island, and Trump's appointee, Susie Wiles, as in Ephesians 6:11. This is 6 times 6 days, which is what is hinted at with the date 11:6. It's also 36 days, which is equal to Barack in simple English gematria, to the date President Trump is predicted to die from a heart attack. He's predicted to be murdered, essentially by Obama. Okay? And he will die from a heart attack, but it is believed that it'll be a directed energy weapon that will facilitate that, in combination with his weakened heart due to not only age, but also the thing that, like I said earlier, injures everyone's heart who has taken it. Okay. Now, so like I said, this date is 83 days, 23rd prime number to the 90-foot Hanuman statue. Perry Pointy Things arrests, Martin Sheen, Perry Kurtz, hit and run, 45th anniversary of Apocalypse Now. By the way, it's also the 79th anniversary of the victory in 45. Victory Day in World War II, 79 because it's the 22nd prime number. 22, again, symbolizes the mark of the Antichrist. Victory, also I mentioned P. Diddy earlier in his video Victory and how it was posted by him on the date 4/5. And that's also why the 45th anniversary of the movie that cost $45 million is also the anniversary of the victory in 45. Amazing, amazing. That's really amazing. I didn't say that with enough emphasis, but I need to move on. That was a special gift when I first realized all of that. Why God was pointing to this 45th anniversary. Yeah. Victory of the saints over the Antichrist. Victory of Jesus over this world that's ruled by Satan. Okay. 84 days, again, a number that symbolizes Obama also, to the day that monkeypox was declared by the UN, right? And here we have the release of Monkey Man, as I explained. Now, 215 days, because the area code of Philadelphia, as I mentioned, is 215. But 215, what I didn't mention earlier, is that it's also 5 times 43. And that connects us to this date here, which is 5G day, because it is 5G frequencies that will trigger the components within people that have taken the mark of the Antichrist, which will then trigger delta brain waves, which will facilitate mass demonic possession of these people. So 5 times 43 hints at 5G times 0.023 because of 23 chromosomes. Again, the inverse of 43 is 0.23 or 0.023. Now, again, the total number of days here is 430, which is why the middle date is the 43 monkeys. As I explained, 430 is furthermore 430 days, not just 430 years. I mentioned that earlier, the Israelites being afflicted for 430 years and persecuted, but also the 430 days in the very important prophecy in Ezekiel chapter 4 regarding God's judgment. 430 days. That's amazing. Again, also H430 is the word God. Okay, and so in first omen, 430 days to the first omen. Because again, this is a symbolic beginning of something. So first omen, right? Mad TV, Monkey Man, as in the mark of the Antichrist, pointy things for the coming monkeypox epidemic for people who have taken the mark of the Antichrist and have decimated their immune systems. These people will turn mad when the demons possess them after all of this. Okay. Here is the 100 monkeys sign, the escaped monkeys connecting to these escaped monkeys on the same day as the trucker protest, which was again 7 times 7 years after the 7 justices voted to legalize abortions. And again, the protest was along the 7 times 7th parallel line, the border wall of security. Here we have, let's see. This is actually separate from this. There's no real connection here, but we did get into it. This does connect. We were talking about the Ethiopian theme. And anyway, this date here, which we don't know what's going to happen yet, is 711 months, possibly the death of Jimmy Carter after the Gateway Arch. And We Are the World, 40 years. Okay, we explained all that. No, okay, so 45%, again, the reciprocal being 0.022 after the death of Morgan Spurlock, Supersize Me. Date 523 hints at the 9 times 11th prime number. He died at 53, which hints at 0.188. Whoa, exclamation mark. Okay, now this was exactly 1776 days, as in the number that symbolizes America, which is also 4 times 444, as in the 44th president after the Manhattan Blackout, which connects to the Manhattan Project, which is another Tower of Babel type of reaching heaven with technology without God, this splicing of the atoms. Okay, 923 months because 9 and 23 are paired together in the signs to confirm them, as I mentioned, the connections. So that's why this Manhattan Blackout is also part of this theme. Okay, it's not just the blackout. It connects to the Manhattan Project, which is this technology, which is what this transhumanism pointy thing is, okay? Now, again, this was exactly 42 years after the New York City blackout, on the same day that the Island of Dr. Moreau was released. It cost $6 million, only made $4 million, and that hints at 64, which is 4 times 4 times 4, as in the 44th president. 42 years again because of the 42 months in Bible prophecy that symbolizes the period of the Antichrist. And also, okay, I thought that was a 213. I had to stare at it for a bit. This is reduced to a fraction. 6 over 4 is reduced to, it hints at 2 divided by 3, which is one reason why the mark of the Antichrist is symbolized by, or rather Obama is symbolized by the number 23. It's because of the Gospel of Mark, in which Jesus said to Peter that the roosters would not crow twice before Peter would deny him 3 times. And taking the mark of the Antichrist is tantamount to denying Jesus. And 2 divided by 3 is 0.666. Okay, so the release of the movie, again, was released exactly 7 months after it was first started being made on a budget of $726 million. A peculiar number to be putting into Wikipedia, but again, it's because it's from God and it hints at the rapture, the escape from the pointy thing, the Island of Dr. Moreau, scenes on Earth. Now, this Dr. Moreau was released 5 months and 23 days after Jimmy Carter his inauguration. Again, that hints at the 9 times 11th prime number, 523. And Carter's inauguration, 666 days before Jonestown and the taking of the pointy thing. Again, Morgan Spurlock's death, 116 days, as in the date 11/6 after, and the Ephesians 6:11 after Tower 22, as I explained, on the date 128, which hints at the Ethiopian. And this is what I didn't explain in the video here. This Tower 22, amazing Tower of Babel sign, this is an amazing connection. It's exactly 13 plus 13 plus 13 months, or sorry, years, that's a typo, after We Are the World was recorded. The famous night after the American Music Awards, when these celebrity singers got together and sang We Are the World which ended up becoming the biggest selling single of all of history. Incidentally, written by Michael Jackson, MJ. MJ equals 23 in simple English gematria. Okay, but the reason why, because God emphasizes a number, its symbolic meaning by repeating it 3 times. 13, as I mentioned, is symbolic of the Antichrist, Nimrod, the type for the Antichrist, who was the 13th generation from Adam. And that's what we were talking about here. We are the world that's what the Tower of Babel was, because Nimrod was the leader at the time of the building of the Tower of Babel. We are the world is Tower of Babel. The world came together as one to build the tower without God, relying on its technology, right? And it's about Nimrod, the 13th generation from Adam. And that's part of a pattern God used in the Bible to have the number 13 symbolize the Antichrist. So from we are the world coming together, we are the world, you could picture in your mind the people in the desert in Babylon coming together and singing, we are the world, while they build the tower. That's exactly the image God is communicating here. We are the world, let's build the tower. And that connects with exactly 13 plus 13 plus 13 months to the Tower 22 sign, which I explained earlier is all about the Tower of Babel. That's an amazing thing here, okay? Now, the death of Morgan Spurlock, as I mentioned a couple of times in the video, is 666% after the Revelation 12 sign, which is also 40 plus 40 months, which hints at the 44th president, as does 6 years and 8 months, hint at 68, and the name of Barack Obama, and the 6th and 8th king. Now, the Revelation 12 sign was exactly 1,017 months after the Island of Lost Souls was released, the first of the Island of Dr. Moreau movies. Okay, and that's amazing. Also, the year 32 hints at Obama. And let's see, the 32nd prime number is 131, which is a G131, which is the word in the Greek concordance that means blood disease, which is what a person gets after they take the mark of the Antichrist, which is dividing the people. That's the 1,017 months, because of 117 being symbolism for let it divide, as I explained. And now I think I have explained this diagram. Yes. So, Maranatha, the Lord comes soon. And let me finish by saying that please share this video. But really, I could also tell you to think about Ezekiel chapter 3 and 33, which is the warning God gave to the watchers, the people that knew what was coming, that didn't warn the people. Okay? It's very serious. You need to warn, you need to do something. Now, also, keep in mind the parable of the bags of gold. Jesus was speaking to Christians, and the one Christian that did nothing with his bag of gold was banished to hell. So much for once saved, always saved, the heretical doctrine that Jesus said he hates in the book of Revelation, and is coming to make war with the sword of his mouth on those that teach and have the works that are a product of this doctrine. And the prediction being made in this video will prove this, in case you are not agreeing with this. Anyway, this video is a massive bag of gold, this prediction. Nothing compares to it. Nothing comes close to comparing to this in terms of an evangelical tool. And so share the video, link to the video everywhere you go, and don't ever stop sharing the video link, or at least another link to some other video on this channel. And also share it in places that you never go. Share it in places that the other team, the blue team, goes to, for example, in their social media universe, okay? And also, if you would like the file for the flyer I hand out, in case you were thinking you are watching too many videos, because in the time that you spend watching a video, you could potentially be helping hundreds of people with a flyer. And now is not the time to hand out the regular, typical evangelical tracts, which are largely based in error anyway. Things like God loves you, which isn't accurate. Okay, the the rare instances of God's love occur always in the context of the redeemed. Anyway, my flyer has tons of amazing information that people need right now. All kinds of well thought out strategic things to be put as much important information as possible on a flyer. And there's a thing about the flyer that makes people want to read it. And if you'd like the file for the flyer I hand out, please contact me. You can give it to your print shop and they'll print it for you. And you can hand it out on busy street corners, car windshields, busy parking lots, and mailboxes, and keep them in your pocket and hand them out everywhere you go during your day. In the grocery store, to people walking up and down the aisle, the bank while you're waiting. And if you are shy, I have this to say to you: get over it. Courage isn't a lack of fear, it's action in spite of it, and Jesus wants us to be courageous for him. Okay, that said, God bless. Believe me, I know far better than you how the prediction made in this video was derived. And more importantly, I know far better than you why the righteous Christian God of the Bible has given me a voice through this prediction. If you are a quote-unquote Christian or Muslim, this prediction was not learned through a demon. Be warned that blaspheming the Holy Spirit is the unforgivable sin. If you are a New Ager or New Spirituality person, this prediction was not learned through somehow tapping into the supposed universal collective consciousness. If you are a conspiracy theorist, this prediction was not learned through figuring out a supposed code that the Illuminati and Satanists are using. This prediction was learned through the Bible and through watching carefully the Lord's prophetic signs, which Jesus commanded all Christians to do. Besides proving that Jesus Christ is the Lord, the reason why God has given me a voice through this prediction is to prove that the controversial things that I am saying in the videos on this channel are the truth. Therefore, a wise person will want to watch all of the videos on this channel. What I will also do is create a video or two that summarizes some of the controversial things that the Lord will prove to be true when the prediction being made in this video comes to pass. I will leave links to these must-watch videos in the description box below this video. Again, the purpose of this prediction, that is from God, is to prove these things that I will talk about. And therefore, it would be foolish to not watch the videos that I will leave links for in the description box below this video. Aliens and UFOs are demons masquerading as aliens and UFOs. Most people's spiritual experiences are demonic deception, especially if they are not a true follower of Christ. In the last days, many people who claim to be a follower of Christ will have spiritual experiences that are in reality demonic. God became a man and died a horrible death at the hand of the ruler of this world, Satan, and then defeated death for you, so that you too can overcome death, which is the price that must be paid for sin. It is time to repent, which means to change one's ways and turn to God and become a disciple of Jesus. Please leave a like and upvote the video, and once this prediction has come to pass, share this video with everyone you know, and more, don't stop sharing it everywhere in social media. It is essential that everyone immediately read the homepage of my website, TrumpPrediction.com. If you are watching this on the YouTube platform, please note that not all of the videos are on YouTube. You need to switch to the BitChute.com or the Odyssey.com channel. And do it now in case you aren't able to later.